Hello and welcome to episode 19 of In PS We Trust. My name's Davey and joining me as always is Phil.
Come on, England!
And Spencer.
Don't care about the football, me.
We're a fortnightly PlayStation podcast, and this episode we're bringing one topic of conversation, which is E3 for us to discuss. And I want to make you guys aware straight off the bat here, we've already recorded our E3 topic. So we're looping back here to record the rest of the podcast. So weirdly enough, you're going to get us at our most drunk, and then we're going to get sober at the midway point and get more drunk throughout. So it's going to be a weird little time shift here.
And I already know England drew to Scotland, unfortunately.
Yeah, crazy. Absolutely crazy. As soon as I captained all of England in my team, in my fantasy team, because I thought they'd absolutely wipe the floor with them. So it's a complete disaster, left, right, and centre. But I'll tell you what's not a disaster. The later half of this podcast, we go through our ranking on the entire E3 conferences to give us our best in show, and we also discuss our top 5 games of E3 that were shown and give our game of E3. It's an episode that you really want to stick around for. But before we get into that, boys, what have you been drinking?
Well, usually we start with me for this, and considering this is technically the second half of the podcast, I've already had 9 of them, so I'd be amazed if you didn't know what I was drinking. But listeners, for some reason this episode, I'm back on the buds.
Oh my god.
It's been a long time.
I can't believe I'm actually quite excited that you got a bit of consistency back in your life now. Because for the last few episodes, it's been a wild card what you're going to go on to. But seeing you back on the buds feels like a welcome relief.
It's nice. It's nice. I went to Asda. I took a look. I looked at the whiskies and such, and I almost bought a bottle of Jameson's. I did. And Jameson's, if people don't know, which they won't, is my favourite whiskey. It's banging. Jameson's is class. I adore Jameson's. But that was £18, and I thought I had to buy Pepsi as well. And then behind me was a 24 crate of buds for £16. And I thought, you know what? Fuck it. Back on the buds.
How's a Jameson's with Pepsi Cherry? Because that's normally the mixer you go for.
It's banging. It's fucking banging. It's admirable.
Fair play.
Well, I feel like I'm taking out your rule book right here, Spence, because I had a bottle of Jack Daniels given to me from work, right?
Sure.
And I thought, oh, this is a really nice gift. And then I went on top of the fridge and realised I had a bottle of Jim Beam.
Nice.
On top of the fridge. It was dusty as fuck, right? It's been out there forever. I had a bottle of that, and I had a litre bottle of Jack Daniels as well. So I thought, well, it's time for me to buy some Pepsi to go alongside that. This podcast, if you haven't realised it, listener, it's a Pepsi podcast, okay? We don't deal with Coke, right? Coke Diet is just trash. So it's all about Pepsi Max. And so I've got the Pepsi Max, Jack Daniels, and Jim Beam. And I got a tiny bit at this point in recording left of Jim Beam before I move on to the Jack Daniels. And then I've already drunk 3 bottles of Estrella. So, you know, I'm keeping it on brand for me.
Is it just normal Pepsi Max? Or is it like cherry or raspberry or lime?
This is just normal Pepsi Max. Just normal.
Never would have expected that from you.
Davey, I know we've been drinking for a couple of hours now, but how is your accent when it comes to a Spanish accent, saying the alcohol you're drinking?
I'm going to reference this to a game that I can reference at this point in the podcast, which is Resident Evil 4. Oh, man. Spence is cracking up. That's the Resident Evil 4 reference for you guys that don't know. Spence is dead. Spence is dead, for the blind listeners. You didn't expect that, I bet.
I don't think any of us expected it, because
I didn't expect that at
I'm
all.
not sure if the button is active or it's not active at this point in the podcast.
No, we've never... It's the monks from Resident Evil 4. But we're in a Spanish village, for those that don't know. We've been drinking for a long time, all right? We're like 4 hours deep into this podcast. I'm glad you enjoyed that.
That was the best thing you could have done.
I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Oh my god.
So, Phil, what are you on today? What nonsense are you on today?
So I've had a bit of a mixture. Obviously, I've had to take a shot. No spoilers for the rest of the podcast, but Davey handed me one of his punishments. So yes, I'm one Jaeger bomb down. I know Spence has still got one to go, so I'm being ultra nice to him. I've been on the super dry tonight, so the Asahi. And then I followed that up with a couple of Bud Lights just to keep the conversation going because I knew it was going to be a long one. So I wanted to be competent for the majority of this podcast. But I know now I'm feeling a little, tipsy off the alcohol we've taken in. So yeah, welcome to the start of our podcast, episode 19, guys.
Episode 90 is going to be a wild ride. Now, just to remind you guys, episode 20, every single 10 episodes, we do a quiz. So we do a crazy quiz where we drink and we go mental. Now, last time we did it, we did the quiz and then we did topics. But I'm thinking for episode 20, what we'll do is we'll do the topics and we'll end. The final topic will be the quiz. Makes way more sense. Means you get a coherent podcast out of us. And then we end it with a quiz where we get trashed. Makes way more sense to me. So we will do that next episode, episode 20. Look forward to that. If you've got any questions to put in, remember you can write into the email, pswetrust@gmail.com.
You can also write into the Twitter @NPSWeTrust, and also reach out to any of us on our individual Twitters in the description below.
You can jump on Reddit and join the conversation there. The URL will be in the description of the podcast.
And just remember, guys, like for the email, I run that. The Twitter, Spence runs that. And for the Reddit, Phil runs that. So obviously, you'll need to put your answer in there. Otherwise, we won't be able to know who wins. But that would go to whoever and asks that question. So it's worth doing.
Just a little note, boys, before we go into any of the subtopics we have. I want you boys to decide yourself which of you are heads or tails. And whichever one is the same as what I'm thinking in my noggin is going to take the last shot I have to give.
I reckon we do this on youngest first, right? Makes sense, doesn't it, Phil? Tails for Wales.
I knew you were going to go tails for Wales. So that's
I'm
fine.
Welsh.
I'll go heads. That's fine. Heads for England. Although Spence is Welsh, so it's probably not the best pick. But I've been sucking up to him all night. So we'll see where this goes.
I was going to say, it's insane that Davey went first. Davey, mate, go get yourself a shot.
Oh, fuck off, mate.
Hey! For the listeners, Davey has just taken his shot, and that was punishment for one of Spence's E3 predictions, which I agreed with him on. So enjoy that one, Davey.
It's lovely. So, let's bring it on to what have we been playing? So, Spencer, you and me have been playing Operation Tango, which was the free PlayStation Plus game a couple of weeks ago that we discussed that we were going to play, and we have done it. So what are your thoughts on it?
Operation Tango? Jesus, fan-fucking-tastic game. I played it with you first, and me and you beat the campaign, and then we decided to switch roles, obviously, but then it was date day with my girlfriend, and we didn't really have much to do on date day because COVID's a thing, so we couldn't really see each other. So I said, do you want to just download Operation Tango? Because she has a PS5 as well. And I said, well, I've already played as the agent. Do you want to play as the agent? And I ended up getting the platinum a little bit ahead of Davey, which I apologise for, but I had to make date day work. It is what it is. And I did still help you get the platinum. So it's not that deep.
I got no problems with it. I mean, immediately, the thing is, right, when you said to me, I've already done this bit, I thought, oh, like it stung, listener, okay? Like, I knew that I'd been usurped by a woman, and that's fine, I know my place, I know how it is. But Spencer came back for me. He said, I'm not going to leave a man behind. And he came back and he pushed me through the platinum. He didn't make it easy for me. He made me figure out everything myself and stuff like that. So it felt like my own experience. I tell you what, Operation Tango is one of those games that should not be slept on for the PS5.
Shouldn't. Really shouldn't.
It was honestly one of the most fun experiences I've had since I've owned the console. It was amazing. I honestly recommend you, if you've got another friend to play with, Phil is on his own, and a lot of the time he always says to listeners to reach out to him to play it. Just do it. Honestly, please reach out to him. It's a fantastic game. Amazing platinum to get. I loved every single minute of it.
I was just going to say, Davey, now you know what it feels like.
I do, except the fact that I still got mine. you know? I still got it. So I'm not in the dirt like you are. Honestly, reach out to everyone. I haven't seen anything on social media for this. Haven't seen anyone hyping it up. I swear it's just me and Spencer that have played this, but it is fantastic. Honestly, do yourself a favor. Go onto PlayStation Plus while it's still on there. Download it, install it in your system, find someone to play it with, and just enjoy yourself because it is brilliant. Playing both the hacker and the agent are exceptional. They both have their own unique roles, and it just really works well together. Don't you feel, Spence?
Mate, I feel exactly the same. And it's insane, the fact that obviously I started as agent, which is the woman, as Phil said I would, because I have to. And then obviously after we finished that campaign, we switched and you were the agent, I was the hacker. It's insane to realize what you were dealing with when I was the agent, to then see how you were experiencing the game when I was the hacker. And it was just insane. The game changes so drastically when you switch roles. It's like you're playing a whole new game, but still getting the same kind of fun, immersive experience. It's brilliant. It is probably one of the best experiences I've had on the PS5 so far.
I wanted to ask you this. How do you reckon it rates compared to the co-op game you played with Georgia a couple of weeks ago?
It Takes Two.
Yeah, that's it.
The issue there is that Operation Tango is a much shorter and less... it's a very specific game. Operation Tango is a very specific game where you play a certain role. You kind of do... Although they change and they get more in depth, you do kind of do the same thing throughout. Although it changes slightly, it's not a drastic change until you change roles, and then it's a drastic change. Whereas It Takes Two, every single level is a whole new mechanic. The game changes, and it's clearly a more well-funded game. It's a game that's had a lot more time spent in it. So as much as Operation Tango is phenomenal, and I'd probably give it, I'm going to give it a rating right now, I'd probably give it a high 8 or low 9 out of 10. I think it was fantastic. I enjoyed every second of it. It's not as good as It Takes Two, but for what it intends to deliver, it delivers it perfectly.
I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10 as well. I honestly think it was just a brilliant experience. I think all of it is just really well done.
Yeah, the thing is about this game, it's free on PS Plus right now. So if you have PS Plus, obviously just download it, otherwise buy it. But on PC especially, I'm sure this game would be phenomenal on PC. I think it's only about £5. Not £5, Jesus Christ, that'd be a bargain. £15. So for £15, and the game comes with a friend pass. So you buy the game £15, or just go halves with your mate that you intend to play it with and give them the friend pass. Really, that's £7 for a fucking brilliant, maybe 10 to 12 hour experience with a close friend. You could have a brilliant time playing that game, and the replayability is insane because the puzzles change every single time. It's definitely worth it, 100% worth the money, and if you can get it for free, even better. I don't know why people aren't playing it.
Yeah, totally agree. And I've been playing Returnal pretty much non-stop since this podcast has run, since Returnal went up. Right, so I've been just running the collectibles, and it's been a fucking nightmare. For the platinum, for those that don't know, you need to 100% every single biome. So it means collecting scout logs and ciphers, which are RNG. Now, it means that every single run you go into, you got a random chance of rooms to appear with scout logs and ciphers. Fine, you may think. Okay. Except that some of them are bugged. So, it means you go into a room, you collect that cipher, it might not count towards your total value, and you don't know if you've actually got that in your collection or not, unless you're paying proper attention to it. So, I'm at the point where I've 100%ed Biome 1, Biome 4, Biome 3, but not Biome 2. And Biome 2 is the one that is the rarest percentage on PlayStation trophies. I am worried that my game is bugged, because I've run Biome 2 now at least 50 times, and I have not found the one collectible I need to get the trophy. Now, when I go on Reddit, people say 50 times? That's nothing. You need to run it at least 200 times before you know it's bugged. I can't do that 4 more times before I rule out if it's a bug or not. This is insane to me. to the point where I am, like, right now, not knowing it's a bug or not is really crippling me. And I'm super worried. I mean, Spence, you've been running this platinum, same as I have. How are you getting on?
I mean, I've been running it a lot less than you. I've only just started on Biome 2 because I figured out that the last scout log I needed in Biome 1, there was a certain way to get it. So as soon as I figured that out, I did it. And I got that last scout log, so I've only just moved on to Biome 2. And today, I found 3 ciphers, which was 3 of the things I needed. I still need a scout log there, and I need maybe like 3 more ciphers, I think. But I'm on that now. I'm hoping I don't run into the same issues as you. I feel like I probably will. But I just feel like as soon as I get past Biome 2, it's probably smooth sailing. More or less.
That's the thing. That's the thing for me. So the solace I found now is moving on to further biomes. So as soon as I moved on, I got the trophy in 3, and I've got 4 already. So it's working on 5 and 6. As soon as I get those, and then if all I've got left is 2, I know I can run through the entire game in one life. If I have to delete my save and run through 2 to get the trophy again, I could probably do it. But let's just put this into context, right? BioShock 2, I quit going for the platinum because the end boss glitched and I lost the trophy. I just walked away from it. And I was, 20? 21? I'm 32 now. I got way more on my plate. And I'm so dedicated to getting this platinum that I will not walk away if I got a glitch in front of me. What's wrong with me? Like, what is wrong with me? Like, why can't I just put this game down and say, nah, I'm never getting the platinum. That's it. Because I know it's just going to sting me every time I look at it on my trophy list and be like, I could have got it. I could have got it.
It's just the difference is you're much more of a platinum gamer now. You're much more of a trophy focused gamer than you were back then. Now you see that on your trophy list and you're like, that's such an eyesore. I need to finish that. It's only 1 trophy. That's all it is. But then you go in the game and you realize, oh, that 1 trophy fucking sucks. As much as it seems like it might be easy, I could revisit it eventually. Nah, you'll have to revisit it every week for the rest of your life.
I'm at the point now where I've done so many runs that if I turn my back on it, I've just totally wasted my time. And that's where I am. That I've got no choice now but to commit. And so that's what I have to do. And that's all I've been doing, boys. That is literally it. It's just literally been Returnal and Operation Tango. Now, I know both of you have bought Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, so I got Ratchet and Clank. I pre-ordered it from Amazon as opposed to Shop 2, which we've been pre-ordering all our games lately. And I know we've had some slight issues with sort of delays to getting delivery from Shop 2. And I'm happy to report that Amazon came through. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart came in the morning on the day of release.
What time?
I think it was around 10 o'clock. I was actually working that day, so ultimately it didn't really matter to me. I was only going to get to the game around 4, half 4, maybe 5 o'clock. But yeah, came in the morning, so if I had taken that Friday off, I would have been able to play it at that time.
I ordered Ratchet and Clank as well, pre-ordered the game. I ordered mine through Shop 2, so different to Phil. I think I got mine roughly the same time. So Shop 2, as much as they failed me this time, because from what we know Shop 2 to be, they did fail me. But they didn't fail me that much. Just a bit. I would have liked the game the day before, but I get it.
Well, that's what you guys sort of promised me, wasn't it? When you sort of taught me into ordering a few things from Shop 2, that we would get pre-release games before the day. For the game we cannot mention, you know, I was hoping for that, but ultimately it came quite late on in the day.
You can mention it here, Phil.
It's fine. I'm so used to not mentioning that game. I'll never ever say the name of the game now.
Ever again.
But when it comes to Ratchet and Clank, I haven't had a load of time to play on it. As you boys know, I've had a number of websites on at the moment, so I'm ultimately busy. I've got to the 4th world in Ratchet and Clank, and loving it. The standout weapons for me is Mr. Fungi. It's the same as Mr. Zircon. Absolutely love just like listening to him when he obliterates your enemies. Ratchet and Clank is exactly what I expected from the game. It's a funny story. We've got our unique weapons. We've got varied enemies and environments. But for me, this really feels like the next level of PS5. Like, I love it. It's exactly what I wanted. It's exactly what it said on the tin, and it hasn't disappointed for my experience so far. I know, Spence, you've played a little bit more than me. How are you feeling about the game?
Well, mate, I've played a lot a bit more than you. I'll have everyone know I've finished the game and platinumed the game. It wasn't even a case, right? I felt like maybe I'm rushing the game. Maybe I should slow down. But I just did not want to put it down. I adored this game for every second I was playing it. I absolutely loved it. And there was one section after I finished the game, or when I was at the end, where I had to grind a little bit. But that was through a fault of my own. And I know that because I didn't realize what I had to do for the trophy. So that is my own fault. So that grind, I don't blame on the game whatsoever. But the game itself, fuck me, phenomenal game. Genuinely, probably, I don't want to say a 10 out of 10 experience because I did experience a few bugs. I experienced texture bugs during maybe World 6 or 7. I'm not sure which world exactly.
What do you mean texture bugs? What happened?
Basically, it's hard to explain.
Now go on.
There's a character with something on their head, I'll say. And instead of seeing what was on their head, it was partially just black. As if there was just a black screen behind it. And I was just seeing through it. So texture bugs there. And beyond that, I experienced actual game-breaking bugs. One in the one from Last World. There was a bug where apparently I was just moving too fast. And I skipped the cutscene somehow. And so I couldn't enter where I had to go. And I thought, maybe I'm just being stupid. Maybe there's a way to get in that I'm not seeing. And I thought, you know what, fuck it. I'll reboot the game, see if it was a bug. And I rebooted the game, entered where I was, and a cutscene played that I hadn't seen. And I thought, no fucking way. And then the area that I tried to get into, I tried for maybe like 10, 20 minutes to get into, was just open. I could get in there from anywhere. And I thought, wow, that's actually shit.
Listener, if you haven't realised by now, Spencer's got that rare PlayStation 5 that he is the definitive bug tester. So
I should be, yeah.
Honestly, any game devs out there, if you got any code you want to send over to someone to see how fucked up they are, just send them over to Spence, because honestly, his PlayStation 5 just fucks up every single game known to man.
That's true. Thank you, mate. But other than that, other than the texture bug, and there was another bug in Ratchet as well, which I caught very, very early on, and turns out it's a consistent bug that I could recreate in 5 seconds for anyone if they wanted to see. It's literally you jump on like roughly someone's back or jump in an area you shouldn't, and you just end up indefinitely falling. And I think the devs knew about this bug, because if you fall for a bit too long, you take damage and it flings you off back into the world. So I think they found that bug and that was their means of fixing it. But there are still some certain spots in the game where if you jump and you land there, you will just fall indefinitely and you can't move. You can't do anything. But this was before my character in the game learned more movement options. So maybe there are ways to get around it later on in the game. I didn't experience it as much in the later half of the game, so that might be why. But that bug happened very consistently early on. But other than that, aside from bugs, because I don't think bugs should really be relevant, because I've experienced bugs in every game I played. Bugs are just commonplace nowadays. Ratchet and Clank was absolutely breathtaking. The way the game looks is phenomenal. The way the game plays is phenomenal. Like I said on a prior podcast, again, the combat did remind me very much of Returnal, in a sense that you're shooting at the enemies, you're dodging, you're doing the same kind of thing. The adaptive triggers aren't quite as utilized as they are in Returnal. The adaptive triggers exist, but I didn't notice them anywhere near as much as I did when I played Returnal. They exist and they're good, but the kind of semi-fire that exists, especially when you use the blast pistol, there's a single fire mode where you just slightly use the adaptive trigger, and then a fully auto mode when you fully press it, you kind of just always use fully auto. There's never any need to use a single fire.
Like having played both games, Ratchet and Returnal, that you're sort of referring to, there's quite a difference in approach there, isn't there? I think Returnal, you have to be more specific over what you're shooting at. I feel with Ratchet, I know I've only got to World 4, but I'm literally pressing down the buttons and laughing as I'm shooting.
Yeah.
You know, I'm shooting at everything and anything, and I don't care where it hits because it'll always hit. I just blasting everything. And that's what Ratchet is.
Yeah. The game, the combat in the game is actually class. And it's insane to me, considering I found the first game so boring and dull, that I think Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart beats Returnal for me to be the game of the gen.
Big.
I think Ratchet & Clank is the game of the gen for me.
Wow. Oh my god, that's massive praise, especially from somebody who didn't enjoy the previous Ratchet & Clank to turn around to this level. Have you thought about going back and playing the previous Ratchet now that you're so high on this one?
I have. I sincerely have. As soon as I finished Rift Apart, I thought I have 2016 Ratchet. I could do it and hopefully enjoy it a bit more than I did before.
Before you go too hard there, Davey, right? Let's just consider Spencer's options here. Has he chosen Ratchet and Clank sort of based on, is it the best game for everyone or is it the best game for you here? You know, I always try and take like an objective approach to how I rate games. I'm not always thinking about just my personal taste. I'm thinking about how it affects the whole ecosystem of the game, right?
Sure. I think it's for me personally, but at the same time, I think for everyone.
Okay. That's a bigger claim then. If you personally think this is the best.
Yeah, Game of the Gen should apply. It's my opinion. It's what I personally think is Game of the Gen. But ultimately, that game through and through is fucking phenomenal. It could apply to everyone. It is class. Yeah, another benefit of Ratchet as well is obviously I played the 2016 version and I thought about Platinum in that game when I played it. This new one, Rift Apart, the Platinum, the grind doesn't really exist. It's so easy to just get all the collectibles in each world whilst you're there, especially with the card system being in the PS5 built into it. It's so simple. It kind of shows you where everything is, and you don't even really need to use it because everything's quite easy to find. It's nice, and all the like gold bolts that you had to collect in the original game, you don't even need to get them in this game. You don't need to collect a single gold bolt to get the platinum.
It all pops up on the map anyway. It's very easy, isn't it? I don't feel like I've missed anything so far.
It pops up on the map if you're close to it. And then cards are just, if you think you've missed something, double checking your cards is just a great way to make sure you've not missed out on anything. Then you just finish off the world you're on, and you think, all right, I'm done. Go to the next world. And you're just ready for a whole new adventure. It's brilliant. The game changes so much throughout the game. And all the weapons that are introduced, there's literally, you get like 3 weapon wheels. It's mad.
I want to ask you guys, obviously you guys played way more than I have. I haven't even touched it yet. So what's the story like? Is it good?
I can't go in depth without spoiling it. But I think it's great. I think the story's fantastic. I think this, as I said, this game's combat reminds me of Returnal. It's nowhere near as difficult or anything like Returnal. It's a very much dumbed down version of it, where you get many weapons to deal with enemies rather than just the one you've happened to pick up. But you have so many options for each different enemy, and then the story around the whole game just ties it all together in a way that Returnal doesn't. The story in Returnal, I still don't know what happened in Returnal. I've no fucking clue. The story, you could beat the game and ignore the entire story, and you'd have a great time. Whereas Ratchet & Clank, the story adds to the experience, where I feel Returnal, it does add to it, but not really, because you're just like, what? But Ratchet, it just makes the game so fun. The story, the acting portrayed by the voice actors and the characters, it's just brilliant. It's actually phenomenal.
So would you say this is the standout experience the PlayStation 5 needed to sell itself? And following on from that, do you feel like this game benefits from being PlayStation 5 exclusive rather than being cross-gen?
Well, this game obviously benefits from being PS5 exclusive because of the Rift usage, which has been shown in the trailers and teasers before, where you just travel through the Rift Obviously, it needs to be PS5 because of that reason. On PS4, it could not do it. But I don't know if it's a console seller. I don't think any game that's been on the console so far is a console seller, really. But that's because we haven't had many exclusives so far. I wouldn't say it sells the console, but it's a damn good reason, like, to play it if you have it.
When I was looking on eBay for PlayStation consoles, because there was an opportunity to buy PS5 over Shop2 quite recently, so I was checking out the prices of what they actually sell for. Not that I was ever going to be a scalper, let's not accuse me of being that. But the PlayStation 5, it was actually bundled with Ratchet and Clank on a digital version. You could buy a PlayStation 5 and Ratchet and Clank together. So they did try and position themselves as the console seller, that game.
So the other game that we've been playing, Spence, is Sackboy: A Big Adventure. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, obviously, we only started Sackboy, last night, I think. But Sackboy, it's fun. It's a very, very cute and charming game. It's insane that it has some of the songs it has in it. I did not expect it to have those. It has, like, some crazy... It has Uptown Funk very early on. It's not a spoiler. It's First World. It has Uptown Funk in it, and it's the full song throughout, like, the whole level, and you're just vibing the entire time you're playing. You just feel happy. You feel good. And you're just like, yo, this level's sick. Sackboy is just a fun game. I will say it was a laggier experience than I wanted, and I have really good internet. Davey has very good internet, and we only played with each other. So on PS5, it should be a bit more, like, fluid in the way it works, but it wasn't. I don't know if maybe my internet was acting up whilst we were playing or something. I was teleporting all around the shop. There were sometimes I took damage and I was like, what? Where from? Why'd I get hit? But other than that, the game's story so far and the whole characters, the costumes they've added from other games, like, I'm playing the game as Clank right now. It's fantastic. I look adorable as fuck. And the whole photo bomb at the end is just so fun. The game's brilliant. I really like Sackboy so far.
The game's fantastic so far. I really enjoy it. And I think the majority of the game so far has just been really charming. Like you said, Spence, I agree with everything you said. Really charming, really fun to play. And it's just one of those games that's... I've said it before on the podcast, but it's a great palate cleanser. It's one of those games that you can just play and just kind of forget what you play. Just have fun. Just enjoy yourself. And that's what the game is. And I really enjoy it for that.
So, boys, before we get into quick news, a little throwback to last episode. As I said, the Sonic conference happened. They happened to show off. King Ice had partnered up with Sonic to make some Sonic chains, and that inspired a purchase. Well, since then, my purchase has arrived, and I've not taken it off of my neck. I love my new chain, and you boys haven't even seen it yet. So I thought this would be the perfect time to show you what it is. Sorry, blind listeners, you're not going to be able to see this. We will make it the thumbnail of the episode. So first, boys, I'm going to show you the box.
I'm so excited for this. You have no idea.
This aside,
Okay.
King Ice.
Okay, we got a logo.
Ooh, cheeky. Nothing on the back.
Right.
King Ice on the side.
Listeners, let's just... I want to put something out there, right? Before Spence shows us this chain, right? The rumours going amongst me and Phil right now are it's either a marijuana leaf, a skull with a crown on it. Phil, have you got any other suggestions?
Well, I thought it would be a Jesus piece, crying Jesus, blood down his cheek. That'd be awesome, right?
I thought you said a Sherlock Holmes magnifying
or maybe
glass.
just two hands in a prayer symbol.
Oh, that'd be so good.
That's horrific.
Basically, we're thinking the most gangster stuff imaginable. So let's see. If it's just Knuckles, I'm going to be disappointed and also really excited.
I'll show you the bottom of the box next.
All right. Just says Ice, right? Okay.
What? Yeah, what's to say below, King Ice?
Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon.
Oh, hello.
What's Nickelodeon, boys?
It's not just a Rugrats face. What's that?
It's Ninja Power.
Is that Raphael? Have you got Raphael? You fucking pretend.
if I
It's a
open
turtle, isn't it? Oh, it's Leonardo.
It's Leonardo.
It's neither, boys. I've got Donatello on my neck.
Why have you got Donny? Well, you know Donny's a bellend.
Mate, Donny's sound.
Well, you were saying with me the other day, Donny's a bellend.
Nah.
I love it.
You like Donny now.
I think
So
that looks really
I
cool.
like Donny.
That looks awesome.
Thank you, mate.
So are you now, you're the Donatello of the group?
I'm Donny. I have to be Donny.
Okay, so we've now got a vacancy for a Michelangelo in the group. So I'm the Raph, Phil's the Leonardo, Spence is now the Donatello with his with his machines. That is a Leonardo, right? That's blue.
Leonardo leads.
No, it's not. On camera, it looks blue. It's not as purple. Trust me.
That is so ice.
In it, I'll say it was supposed to be, I think, £110, reduced to like 70, and then reduced again to 35.
Is that it?
And I bought it. Yeah, it was 35 quid.
I was going to say my birthday's coming
Because-
up real soon. I mean,
I
November.
reckon we should all get some King Ice. I reckon.
It was reduced to 75, but then they sold out of Leo and Raph.
Oh, of course it is.
So all they had left was Donny and Mikey.
No surprise.
So this is what I picked. I got Donny, and I've been wearing him every day. And it was supposed to come with a little pizza slice on the end, but instead they gave me the King Ice logo, which I wasn't very happy with. So I hit them up, said, "Excuse me, I bought this because it had a pizza slice on the end, as the turtles enjoy." And they were like, before they even replied to me, which was within like 2 hours, by the way, before they replied, they shipped me the pizza charm free.
Wow, that's
For free.
well good.
That is
Even
well
before
good.
they
Isn't
replied.
that brilliant customer service? Before they replied, and then said, "We're sorry if this like, what they say? They said like, we're just sorry for this. We've sent you the pizza charm for free." And I was just like, sound. They said, "If you have any concerns, contact us." And I contacted them, and I said, "No concerns. Thank you. Outstanding customer service. That's actually brilliant."
I just want to say, for all the female listeners to the podcast, and sure, I've looked at the statistics, right? And it's a low minority. But lock yourselves away, because Spencer's coming, okay? Like, he looks like a stud right now. He looks like an alpha. And, I mean, sure, he's got a Donatello on him. It's not a Raph. It's not a Leonardo. It's not even a Michelangelo. So, he's kind of down the line, right? But
It's Donny,
He's
mate.
the
It's
fourth
Donny.
best in the room.
he's the fourth best, yeah. So, you know, you're going to get it. But fourth down the
I
line.
will say, before we move on, I will say, my missus fucking hates it. She cannot stand it. She literally told me, she's like, take it off. Whenever you're with me, just please don't wear it. And I was like, I'll tuck it into my shirt. She's like, no, take it off. You're not wearing that around me. And I was just like, I will though.
It's
What's
like
his
the
thing?
I'm
Doing
going to.
machines? That's his thing, isn't it? Doing machines? It's not a staff, is it?
Yeah, he's the tech bloke.
He's got a staff or not? That's Leo.
no.
Yeah,
he has the staff.
Yeah,
he has the staff, and he does
So,
machines.
Just tell her you're going to give her
yeah.
wood.
That's insane. That's
It'll
mad.
work. It'll work.
She wouldn't get the reference, mate.
She will after.
It's true. But yeah, I like it. I actually think it's sick.
I reckon it's
Not gonna
cool.
lie.
I reckon it's cool. I reckon it's cool.
My missus's mum and her nan really like it.
So it works for the older crowd.
It works for the older crowd. It does.
Fair. So if you want to bag an older bird, then go on to kingice.com and buy a Donatello necklace.
Chain, fam. Chain.
We're not saying necklace,
Chain.
are we?
Yes, chain.
It's-
It's chain.
okay,
It's chain,
okay.
it's chain.
Not a necklace.
I still think if you had the Jesus hands, that would have
It'd be
been...
so much more better, wouldn't it?
Your missus would have loved that,
Fam.
mate.
Should be
Mate, it's
bowing
Donny's
down.
head. It's Donny's decapitated head, you know.
Yeah, but you know, if you had a skull with a crown over it, should be bowing down like a Catholic.
Mate, Shredder decapitated Donny, covered him in diamonds, taxidermied him, and sent him my way.
You can
Bless.
double up. You can have multiple chains, can't you? Look at it. You look at 2 chains, for example. He's always got 2 chains.
Why didn't you go 4 chains?
You could be
Spencer,
Spencer
4
3
chains.
or 4 chains, depending on what's on sale at King Ice.
I don't appreciate this, boys. I thought you'd like Donny.
I love it,
more,
mate.
you
I
know.
love it. I think it's cool as fuck.
I like Donny. except for the fact we've made a precedent on the podcast that Donnie is the bitch of the Turtles. So quick news, there's been a story that's been developing and then kind of not developing about Abandoned. So Abandoned tweeted out a tweet saying, we're a game that starts with S and ends with L. And so everyone was saying, oh, it's Silent Hill. And then there's been this massive conspiracy theory around it. So you've had people have got the lead designer's name and put it into Google and translated it from Swedish, which where the studio is from, into Japanese, and it's been Hideo, which made everyone think it's Hideo Kojima, and the name Silent Hill from the tweet, and it's put everyone into an absolute fucking rampage. Now, studios come out since and said, no, I'm really sorry for this. We're not Silent Hill, that's owned by Konami, but it is not letting up. And I personally believe that this is Silent Hills. I really do. Boys, what do you reckon?
Right, so first thing, you think it's Silent Hills, the PT game. Yeah? That ends with an S, fam.
Yes, but the contra to that is the project was abandoned. It's a reach. I know all this is a reach, but I want it to happen.
Do you know what else was abandoned and actually ends with L? Splinter Cell. Give me first person horror survival Splinter Cell.
Horror survival Splinter Cell.
It'd be cracked. You got your night vision goggles at nighttime, terrifying as fuck.
How do you
It'd be sick.
How do you have a stealth game where
You have to hide from the shit. You got 2 bullets throughout the whole game.
2 bullets?
Yeah, throughout the whole game. You have to use them on the end boss, otherwise you just lose.
Ubisoft, you've heard it here first. This is probably the most iconic Splinter Cell game I've ever heard of in my life. But Phil, on a more sensible suggestion, have you got any critique on this? Have you got any opinion? Do you reckon Hideo's working on a Silent Hill, or do you reckon this is all just Reddit bollocks?
To be fair, this has completely passed me by. I haven't really noticed this one on my Twitter feed. But do I want Hideo Kojima working on Silent Hills or Silent Hill? No, I want him working on the next Death Stranding, please.
Fair. Well, for my point, listeners, I'm desperate for new Silent Hills. I cannot wait. I wish the PT had been fulfilled. I loved that demo. I thought it was amazing. It was the best horror experience I've ever had in my entire life. I was so scared that entire game. And so to see Hideo team up with Guillermo del Toro and actually do something, oh, incredible. But we will watch this space. The next couple of weeks, we are expecting to hear an announcement of a PlayStation Direct. So we will see what happens.
Okay, me. A game I've been keeping a close eye on since its release in April 2020. It's not strictly an E3 announcement, but an announcement nonetheless. This month, we got some more info on the DLC for Streets of Rage 4, guys. We are getting Max Thunder. Max was one of the 4 playable characters in Streets of Rage 2, alongside Axel, Blaze, Eddie, who was the kid on the skates. This is the second confirmed character after Estelle. Estelle is the Special Forces officer who was also a boss in Streets of Rage 4. There's one more character to come, so keep your eyes peeled. The DLC is coming later in the year, and I cannot wait. As you guys know, this is one of my favourite genres of games. I absolutely love side-scrolling beat-em-ups, so cannot wait for this one, guys.
Yeah, it's big. I mean, I adore Streets of Rage. I've always loved Streets of Rage. Streets of Rage 4, I want to complete it. I still haven't finished it yet. I really mean to. And then if added on to that is more DLC, fantastic. I look forward to it. So boys, it's my time for quick news. My subtopic of the night is a controller comparison, because today, Shopto, sorry Davey, delivered my Cosmic Red controller, which, as you boys can see, sorry blind listeners, which is literally all of you, I'm holding them up right now, and it's quite nice. It's quite nice, but this is a controller comparison. I don't think I like it as much as the white.
Ooh.
I don't think I do. And I think the reason Davey wanted the black so desperately, and why he thought it was nicer, was because this is the first time since the PlayStation 1 that the console hasn't launched with a black controller. And so obviously you want the black. It's the signature black. But for me, I wanted the red. And it's not pink. A lot of people say it's pink. It's not. It looks very pink on images and stuff online, but it's not. It looks very like maroony red. It's very nice. The one critique I have for it, because same as Davey, I'm playing Returnal. I'm trying to get all the collectibles. I played Returnal for quite a bit, and I even hopped into Astros to test out the adaptive triggers and the haptics, because obviously that's the best kind of judgment we can get for them, because it overuses those features. I thought it'd be a good way to test it, and it feels fantastic. It feels the same as my white DualSense when I first got it. But that's the issue, is that it feels the same as my white DualSense when I first got it. I stated before, when I first got my controller and my console, I didn't like the D-pad. The D-pad felt a bit too soft. And since then, since playing Mortal Kombat through and through, the D-pad is kind of worn in, and the buttons feel a lot better to press. So on my red, my new Cosmic Red DualSense, the D-pad feels a bit gross to me. And I'm sure that will change, because I know my white DualSense felt gross at first, and it doesn't anymore. So I know that's just a wearing it in kind of thing. But for now, the D-pad just doesn't feel great.
That's just weird though, isn't it? Because like you and me play Smash competitively, and so the feel of a GameCube controller can completely change your experience of that game, right? So playing a brand new, crisp GameCube controller can feel completely different from someone who's got a worn-in one, especially with like the inputs registering and stuff like that. So it's kind of the inverse effect of when you get a brand new crisp controller for Smash or something, right?
Yeah, it is. The thing with Smash is kind of like the lottery with controllers, where some controllers just have like input errors. They do. Every single GameCube controller you buy will have either a perfect controller, which is extraordinarily rare, it's really rare to get, or a slight error somewhere where it doesn't really hinder your gameplay, depending on what you're playing, or it could hinder you so very much, especially if you're playing Melee. Melee, crisp controllers, or like perfect controllers, are so valuable in that game. So on PlayStation 5, it doesn't matter anywhere near as much. All the controllers are made quite well. It's nowhere near GameCube. GameCubes are made quite poorly. But these controllers are made very well, and I know it's just a case of me having to wear in the D-pad. And I know I'm going to have to play a fuck ton of Mortal Kombat to do that. And I'm going to have to use my new red controller in Mortal Kombat, which I really don't want to do, but I'm going to have to, just to make it feel comfortable to myself. But as of now, the controller's perfect. It feels amazing. Just the D-pad. It's only the D-pad. Everything else is phenomenal. It just needs to be worn in for me.
Well, I'd love to be able to add in, listener, about how the black DualSense is, but it turns out Shop 2 have disappointed me. I haven't got it at the time of recording, so turns out Shop 2 are dead to me. So they have joined the Amazons of the world by I'm never pre-ordering anything from there again. Now, if somebody wants to reach out to me from Shop 2, you're more than welcome. The email is pswetrust@gmail.com. You're more than welcome to try and resolve this, but no. As far as I'm concerned, I need to find a new retailer to buy from, because otherwise I'm going solely digital, or if I'm going physical, I'll just go to Tesco at midnight or Game the next day and just pick up, because this is ridiculous. My order is in Birmingham right now, so I have literally no way to be able to tell you how good the black controller is. Now, next episode, hopefully I'll have it, so I'll be able to tell you guys how much I love the black controller, how good it looks with the blue LEDs against the black. Everything I've seen just looks phenomenal, but I can't tell you. And that's Shop 2 let me down. So listen, as far as you, stay away from Shop 2. They're not what they used to be. Stay clear, save your money, order from a different retailer, order from GameSeek, or order from anyone else who's an independent retailer who really try and make your money work for you. Because Shop 2 aren't it. And I'm done with them. Never again. That is it for quick news. So we are about to move on to our topic of the show, which is E3. So we are on to our main topic of discussion. Now, there is only one topic today, and that is E3. It has come, it has gone. But we made some predictions last time. Do you guys know what you made?
I don't remember making any predictions, Davey.
Yeah, you wouldn't, mate. I remember. I definitely remember.
Yeah, I remember them too, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted. So what we're going to do first is we're going to run through how our predictions went. Let's start with the worst. Phil, how are your predictions for Capcom?
Well, don't give it away before we've even started. I could have introduced that a little bit differently and said, I had a couple of predictions for Capcom, a couple of hopeful predictions for Capcom. So my safe prediction was that we were going to see something of Street Fighter 6. I thought it was about time that they move on from Street Fighter 5, or maybe just show a glimmer of hope that we're going to get a new Street Fighter. I thought the possible would be a reimagining or a comeback of the title Power Stones, because that was a beloved title back in my youth. I thought potentially, seen as, PlayStation have put a lot of money in these days into the FGC, we might see a new fighting game coming back, and that possibly could have been Power Stones. And then my crazy one, which I've always hoped for, is to see Lost Planet back.
See, that is a mad one. Like,
It's
that's like exactly what the predictions are all based around, is like having something totally out of left field. So, Lost Planet, I mean, you must be probably one of the only people in the world that would be like, yes, like popping off crazy.
Well, I think the thing that I said last podcast was, as it's not a beloved sort of title, it is something that very much like the niche enjoy, that they could mess around with it. They could switch it up. It could be a PS5 exclusive. They wouldn't have to cross-platform it because you wouldn't have got any complaints about it. So they could have done something very special specifically for PS5 with Lost Planet.
So with those predictions in mind, how did you do?
0.
Zip. Oh, man.
Nada.
Oh, that's grim.
But I don't think with these predictions I played to win. I just said what I wanted. And unfortunately, the head honchos at Capcom didn't read my DMs.
No. Or they saw him and just literally just put him straight in the shredder. Janice! Straight in.
Hey,
join it with
Just like
the rest.
Devolver, mate. Just like Devolver.
Just like Ubi with Splinter Cell.
mark my words. Next year E3, maybe I'm a year ahead of the curve here.
You could be a futurist, yeah.
Maybe I am. But yeah, 0 out of 3, unfortunately. So, yeah, didn't go great.
Well, my predictions didn't go too well either, to be honest. So, just a reminder for the audience, we did all our predictions based on our most anticipated conference. So, Phil's was obviously Capcom, and mine was Xbox and Bethesda. It's the one I was looking forward to the most out of all of them. And so my predictions, my safe, was that we'd get the Halo trailer. And we got that. We got that. Easy one, right? Super easy. My possible was the Elden Ring trailer and release date. Oh. God damn, Summer Games Fest, man. God damn, it's so close. And then my crazy was that we'd get Wolfenstein 3 announced. But nothing. Nothing with that.
You can blame Jeff Keighley about the Elden Ring announcement, couldn't you?
Oh, when I saw it, I popped off, right, seeing Elden Ring. And then it dawned on me, oh no. And I was gutted. I was absolutely gutted it wasn't at Xbox. And I thought to myself, well, it's bound to just show up again. There's loads of trailers which are turning up again through E3. They'll have it again, right? Same thing. Maybe they'll have an interview or something. Nothing. Not a single bit. So I was absolutely gutted on that. So Spence, how did you get on? What were your predictions?
It's me. As people remember, my favorite conference was Nintendo. And unlike Phil, where he said what he wanted, I said what I expected. Because I thought, you know what, shots are a bit fun. So, for my safe, it was a new Smash character, which was correct. We got Kazuya from Tekken. Possible was Breath of the Wild shown and a date, which was correct, but you boys might want to argue with me for that one.
Yeah, I don't know. Are we giving a date just for a year? It's not really a date, is it? I'd say no.
I'd say yes on that because it is a date. A year's a date. I'd be happy with that. You didn't say any specifics, did you, in your prediction, Spence?
I just said shown and date.
There we go. I would say yes. That's fine.
All right. Well, I'll give it. I'll give it then.
That's Phil just trying not to get the shot. That's all that is.
He's being tactical again, isn't he?
You've seen right through me, haven't you? Was it that
course,
obvious?
For my third one, my crazy Bayonetta 3 news, which I thought it would end with, but nothing.
So, the final scores then for dishing out the shots. Spencer has 2. I have 1. Phil, zippity-doo-dah. Absolutely nothing. So, these shots can be given out at any point. It's not necessarily related to the button, which obviously in this topic cannot be pressed. So, that brings us on to now. We've got a guest with us today.
Hey.
Hello. Hi.
Potato Chief is back, our resident Xbox fan. He is back with us to discuss all things E3.
Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure to have you back, our first ever returning guest on the podcast. And what a better way than to kind of extend the hand to the competition, extend the hand to the Xbox community. They need all the helping hands they can get these days. And so we thought we'd reach out into the ether, bring you in to our loving PlayStation embrace, make you feel, part of a bigger family.
You never know, Davey. You might get an invite onto his show in the future, seeing as he's been on twice. Potato Chief, you do your own podcast, don't you? Do you want to take this opportunity just to introduce our listeners, just in case they have both console? There are people out there that have both PlayStation and Xbox, much like myself. Would you like to introduce your podcast as well?
Yeah, so I do X Marks the Box, an Xbox podcast, actually inspired by you guys, because after doing your podcast, I was like, I'll do my own, be fun. So yeah, I have an Xbox podcast, and it's on my YouTube channel at Potato Chief.
Imitation is the highest form of flattery, so we really appreciate that, Potato Chief.
Can I just say, X Marks the Box, what a fantastic name. That's actually such a sick name for a podcast. Well done there.
I didn't come up with the name, I nicked it. My friend,
That's crazy.
My colleague Alice, who I do the podcast with, it was her name she came up with, to be fair, so I can't take any credit. So, but yeah. Also, I was listening to your predictions. Lost Planet, we need a new Lost Planet. I don't understand why we haven't got a new Lost Planet.
This is why we bring him on the podcast. This is why.
I love Lost Planet. I was like, and also insane. I really thought we were going to see Wolfenstein 3. I can't believe we didn't see that at the Xbox conference.
I was well shocked. I was well shocked with that trailer they ended with at the conference. Obviously, we'll cover the conferences in more depth later on in the podcast, but that trailer they ended with, I honestly thought that kind of style they were going for. I thought, oh, this is a Wolfenstein spin-off, like set maybe in like the 80s or something, or so a similar time to what the co-op one was set, but obviously with hopefully an actual good game behind it. And then I was totally disappointed in that. So I'm surprised. Maybe we'll get something later on next year or something like that. But who knows? Who knows?
Machine Games are the people who develop Wolfenstein. They're currently making Indiana Jones, but we thought, because it's been a while since Wolfenstein 2 and the New Blood, that there'd be a new Wolfenstein game, but it looks like they were putting all their time into Indiana Jones by the looks of things, which is, I guess, disappointing. I mean, I would prefer a new Wolfenstein, to be honest, but I'm not quite sure. Well, I mean, you'd be the same way, I'd imagine. So.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana Jones is an absolute OG, Anything with Indiana Jones where you can whip somebody and, go through a doorway and hopefully there's like a remove your hat button and then you can put the hat back on. As long as you got that you can roll through any single door and put the hat back on at any point, even if it's just like a closing door, you've got me. You got my money, right? And I'd be super happy with seeing some footage of that. But out of Bethesda, out of the entire deal, the only games I really care about are Wolfenstein and Doom. And so those are the games that would get me excited to see anything from them. And especially know what kind of fate awaits them, if they're like going to be exclusive or not. So anything outside of that, I don't really care too much about Bethesda, but yeah, never mind. It gives them something to pull out in the years to come, I guess. But what we're going to move on to is I want to know your thoughts, boys. I want to know what you thought about E3 in a nutshell before we then go into specifics on kind of crowning the conferences for the best one. So Spence, why don't we start off with yourself? What are your thoughts on E3?
Sure. Well, E3 is it's a massive celebration of gaming, especially like for me. I love E3. I look forward to it every year. This year, a bit disappointing to me personally, anyway, because there very much weren't many games that I saw and thought, yeah, I'll buy that. And obviously, there was no PlayStation conference, which is what I want, because that's the games I'd buy. So it was dark days for a while until a bit of redemption. But we'll go into that later on.
What about yourself, Phil?
Yeah, much like Spencer, I always look forward to E3. It's a highlight of the year, really, when it comes to gaming. It's something I look forward to and sort of always tune in. I sort of, at the time of air, I watched a few of them live, and then I've been catching up with them today in preparation for this podcast. And I don't know if I agree with Spencer in the sense that he said there wasn't many games, because some conferences were stacked with games. It was literally game after game after game. But there were some conferences which I feel didn't necessarily need to be there, because they maybe only had one, or maybe even just half a game that they were showing, right? But overall, there are some gems there, which hopefully later on in the podcast I can introduce you to some of them, because I think some of them were quite easily missed.
No, I think that's a really good point. I really do. Before I have my say, because I'd like to ramble a little bit, Lewis, what was your take on the E3 as a whole?
I mean, it's very similar to Spencer's, to be honest. Looking at because you've made us look at all the conferences, I feel like there was literally 2.5 good conferences, and then 7 really bad ones. To be honest, it wasn't a very good show consistently. I mean, lucky there was 1 or 2 very good shows that kind of lifted the rest up. And I enjoyed a couple of things, but I didn't rate it too high, to be honest. It's one of the weaker E3s. Even one of the better conferences, which we'll get to, I feel wasn't the best they've done in their history. So, but yeah, I think there was 2.5 really good shows. The rest was a bit poor. I've seen a much better E3s in the past, but as we had a year off from E3, I think it's been quite decent for it as a comeback, I suppose.
Did you expect it to be a good E3? Because I didn't go into this E3 with sort of high hopes.
I feel like the Summer Game Fest has completely messed it up in a way, to be honest, because it's all been fractured and split up. So I didn't really have much high hopes for it. I mean, as obviously you guys know, no PlayStation there. I mean, that's a big problem right there. And then obviously Jeff Keighley stealing Elden Ring. God damn it. And then there's probably going to be more conferences throughout the year, and everyone's copying the Nintendo Direct approach. So you got 100 Ubisoft Directs throughout the year, or whatever they're called, Ubisoft Forwards. And you got PlayStation State of Plays all the way through the year. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. And of course, we're coming out of COVID now as well, and that had huge sort of bearing on, the sort of development process on a lot of these games, which a lot of developers, including Hideo Kojima, sort of referred to in some of the showcases. So, yeah, we've got that to deal with as well. So I didn't expect it to be the best E3 in any sense, but what we saw, yeah, there was a few things. Which we'll get onto later.
I was going to mention as well, you were saying about bad predictions. I predicted that we would see a Hideo Kojima Metal Gear Solid game, because I thought Microsoft might buy the rights to... I just went for the craziest prediction I could think of. Obviously, that didn't happen. Death Stranding remastered or Director's Cut or whatever it was. So disappointed by that.
I mean, you were pretty close, but can we get this guy on the show full time? Because I hate being the only one that's wrong constantly, but that was never going to happen.
I wanted the craziest prediction.
Well, I'll give you my thought really on E3. So, Lewis, you and Phil are obviously kind of in agreement on this, that you're saying you weren't going in with crazy expectations and stuff. I was going in with really high hopes for E3 this year, really high hopes, and especially out of a couple of the conferences, I thought there was going to be some massive announcements, and I was left for the most part feeling really underwhelmed by it. I think the problem is that I just don't think time was used very well. And I think if you're a game developer or you're a publisher, and you've got games to show, then it's worth having a conference. But what's the point in having a conference and it being like 10 minutes long while you just show one thing and then bounce? Like, what's the point? You might as well just put it direct on YouTube. Like, what's the point? You're going to be overshadowed by everyone else anyway. Why don't you just hold off and just release it in a couple of weeks when there's nothing to talk about?
I'm not sure I 100% agree on that. Because I think if I'm a video games developer or producer, I want to be part of E3 regardless, right? I want my name in the conversation. Any press is good press because it's all marketing and it's all free at the moment. I'm not going, to Vegas or to any of the big presentation places and setting a big conference up, am I? I'm just doing something on YouTube, right? That I can get the marketing guys to do. There's very small amounts of investment here to actually get quite a lot of eyes on what we've been doing, even if that is just one game.
That's true, but then at the same time, we're going to be on a bit of a news drought now for weeks, right? Whereas they could literally do it now or like next week, and it would have a lot more news coverage just because there's nothing else to talk about. Whereas at that point, is Tiny Tina's going to fucking Wonderland's game going to be talked about when you've got like Starfield and Elden Ring and all these kind of big hitters? No. So what's the point? Just shut up. Don't say anything about it.
So what you're saying is they should have waited a week until we record the next podcast and kind of sync it up with the NPS We Trust podcast schedule, just so we've always got something to talk about. Wouldn't
Definitely.
that be a good right idea?
That'd be a fantastic idea. In fact, all the developers that do listen to this podcast, write into the show and just say you're sorry. That's all I want. I'm sorry that I wasted your time on our conference.
We know they're out there because they're the ones siding with me.
So, now we got our initial thoughts out of the way, let's go into the rankings of the conferences. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about with each of these, I imagine. Some of them there won't be, because it's like one thing shown. But what we can do is we've each gone away and ranked the conferences. So we'll go round in a circle in terms of giving our worst, building up to our best. So we each do our worst and then build up the list. And then we'll collate that then, and we'll be able to award the conference of E3 in PS We Trust a very prestigious trophy. So let's move on swiftly to the number 10, the worst conference of E3. Lewis, why don't we start with yourself?
Well, this one I found tricky because, as I said earlier, I feel like there was 2.5 good shows and then 7 really bad ones. So what's the worst of the worst? I personally went for the VR show because I have no interest in VR whatsoever. So that was my bottom. But personally, this could be out of 7 of them. So flip 7 coins, I guess. So that would be my bottom one, would be the VR show.
Wow. See, VR, I thought me and Spencer watched that together at the time. And I watched it mainly because I wanted to see if there'd be any announcement on PSVR 2. There wasn't. But there was an absolutely shit ton of games shown in there. And there was some decent stuff. I mean, Spence, you probably know more. Well, you definitely know more about the VR market than I do. What was your kind of take on that?
I quite liked the VR showcase. I didn't think it was anything special, but they did show like a few games that interested me, especially seeing as I have an Oculus Quest, and the fact that they showed a lot of games that weren't Oculus Quest 2 specific, because there's 2 models now, and a lot of the games coming out, especially the good ones, are only coming to the Quest 2, so I wouldn't be able to play them. So for me, that conference was actually really great. So I liked it.
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing. Maybe you got to be in that market to really appreciate it. But unfortunately, there wasn't PSVR 2 shown, which was a real bummer. I thought maybe they might sneak it in there. But no, nothing like that. Absolutely nada. So Spence, let's move on to you. What was your number 10?
My number 10 was Bandai Namco. Just because it was shit. Need I say more? It was like 15 minutes long and they showed one game. It wasn't great.
And that game had already been shown.
Yeah.
That E3. I mean, I love the Dark Pictures anthology. Big fan. But House of Ashes, you don't need to do a bloody conference on House of Ashes. Christ, with that 15 minutes that they showed was exactly the same bit of footage, really, that had been in the Summer Game Fest. So I was like, what is going on? And I was so hyped, I think. My expectations were so high for Bandai Namco, because I thought, it's going to be the My Hero Academia game that's been rumoured, you know? It's going to be all this crazy stuff. It's going to be some more Elden Ring. It's going to be this, that, and the other. And then his House of Ashes, we got to show, we got that again. And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake. I couldn't believe it. When it ended, I remember I turned and I was just like, what? Like, when they just went back to the audience, like, to the presenters, and they were all, like, talking for, like, 20 minutes, trying to find something to talk about with it. I was just like, oh, this is so embarrassing. Phil, you're number 10.
Okay, my number 10. I agree with Lewis on this one. The VR showcase. I watched it, and ultimately there's nothing there that they showed that's going to make me buy VR, right? I want to watch this conference and go, oh shit, I need to now go out and spend £400 and get myself a full VR setup, right? I want something else to buy a VR headset other than Half-Life Alex. There was, like, saying that, there's a couple of promising titles there that if I went to a friend's house and they had an Oculus Rift or they had the PSVR, I think actually these are both Oculus games, that I'd be interested in playing, but I don't think they're good enough or they're at the higher level that I would go out and actually buy a VR headset myself. The games that interested me was Unplugged, which is the air guitar game. That looked like fun. I could imagine that, you know, going around, a couple of beers around your house, put on the VR headset, make a fool of yourself, play some air guitar. I think that looked fun. Although they did only have the one Offspring song licensed, which is quite funny. But I like Offspring, hey. And the other one was, I'm a big Sam and Max fan. I have been since I was a kid, watching it, I think, on TCC. If I'm right, I don't know who wants to fact check me on that one, but come at me. Sam and Max, I've always been a fan of. Love it. And that looked like fun as well, because that's just an escape room. So if my friend had a VR headset and had those games, I'd be up for playing them, but they're not enough for me to buy a VR headset.
I think that's totally fair criticism, to be honest. You're quite right. There's nothing there that really tickled my fancy enough for me to, like, you know, get on the internet and buy an Oculus or something. Nothing there. Nothing like that. It all looked really, really sad. Really, the games looked really, like, bad. They just looked bad. I was like, oh no.
It kind of reminded me of kind of when I first got into PC gaming, the standard of the games. They all just looked a bit unfinished and kind of just a bit jank. The ideas were okay, but they weren't a full game, if you like. They were the kind of demos that you would get on the front of a PC gamer back in the day.
Yeah, that is kind of the issue with VR. VR is a very, like, limited piece of hardware, no matter what you're playing, other than obviously, like, the Valve, whatever it is, the Valve handset and
Valve
the
Index.
Oculus Rift. Valve Index, that's the one, where it's connected to your PC, so obviously you have your PC's power behind it, but most games just aren't really great looking at the minute, and most good games on VR just come from pure innovation, trying to change the way the handset is used.
I remember going to Dave & Buster's back in the day over in Bristol, and they were one of the first kind of like arcades to have a VR setup.
Sure.
And one of the games I played there was Lawnmower Man, the game. And to be fair, VR hasn't changed. They're all shit. You get in there and you don't know what you're doing because all the graphics are blurry and kind of big and kind of like, you know, it's just not good just yet. Apart from Half-Life Alex, which I really want to play, but I can't spend £1,000 on one game. Not even me, right? I'm not spending £1,000 on one game. I might rent one and, like, as I said to you in previous podcasts, where I'd buy it on eBay and sell it later. But I would just love a few other games to be interested in.
I will say, as much as Half-Life Alex is a cut above the rest, graphically speaking, on VR, there are a lot of games that do look good, and a lot of games that don't even really need to look good. Like Beat Saber is brilliant, and it doesn't need to look good because of the way it's made. And then I've been playing The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners on my Oculus Quest, and that game looks great. Nowhere near the level of Half-Life Alex, but good enough to make it an immersive experience. And that's kind of all games need to achieve, because as we know, games don't need to be amazing, graphically speaking, like we've said before about specific games that I can't say, to make them good, immersive games.
Good point, but ultimately at this show, I didn't see anything that, as I said, would make me buy the hardware.
Sure.
So, my number 10, my worst one, is the same as Spence's. I mean, me and Spence always agree, so let's see how much this correlates across the rest of the list. Bandai Namco, my worst, by an absolute landslide. I've already given my reasons. Just an absolute waste of time. So, we're back around. Lewis, you're number 9.
My number 9 is Bandai Namco. So, I mean,
Oh.
it was towards the bottom. I just put a VR below it because I have no interest in VR. But yes, what you've already said, it wasn't a very good show. As you said, one game, 15 minutes. Might as well just put a trailer up or like an overview or something. I don't understand why you would. And no Elden Ring. Why? Like, come on now. You got your own conference and you gave it to Jeff Keighley. Like, it doesn't make any sense. At least give it to Xbox. God.
It really makes no sense. I mean, Christ, they could have had anything. They could have literally had an update on Soul Calibur. They could have literally just had an update on Dragon Ball Fighters. They could have done anything at all. But they're like, nah, let's give it to the one game that's about 4 hours long max. And let's show 15 minutes of it, which we've already shown before. Just, terrible idea. That person needs sacking. Spence, back round to you. You're number 9.
Right, my number 9, I literally just changed it. I swapped it around with my number 8. My number 9 is Ubisoft.
Oh!
And I changed it round.
What?
What the hell?
I changed it round just because Just Dance isn't on the Wii. So I moved it a step down.
So you're punishing them because they're not supporting the Wii? Because your prediction you made was totally wrong.
Yeah. There are some people who still have their Wii because they're like, that's fine, Just Dance will come out on the Wii. No, it doesn't anymore. Why have they done that? It's not like it can't run on the Wii, it's videos.
Spencer's got 2 shots to hand out, so I think that was a very good choice, Spencer, number 9 there.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you.
Absolutely, you're a lunatic.
Also, they showed off the Rabbids game, which I feel like was probably their big show-off, or one of their big show-offs, and we'd already seen it.
Well, yeah, Nintendo jumped the gun, didn't they?
Yeah, Nintendo leaked it.
They leaked it like a day before the conference. It's so grim. So grim. Nobody cares about that game anyway, to be fair. We'll talk about Ubisoft later in the conference, I'm sure. So, Phil, we're back round to you. What is your number 9?
I love having Lewis on this show because everything he's saying, I finally got someone to agree with me on things, right? So you've got Spencer, now I got Lewis. Lewis, number 9, I'm the same as you. Bandai Namco, nothing there for me. It was a very quick conference, bit of a waste of time, but ultimately I rated VR Showcase lower because the barrier to entry to VR is so high, right? If I want to buy a Bandai Namco game, I've just got to shell out for the game, haven't I? It works on my PC or it works on my PlayStation. But when it comes to VR, I've got that £600 or whatever it is to buy the headset. So that's why that got bumped down to number 10. My number 9, Bandai Namco. Davey, what was your number 9?
So my number 9 was Gearbox. Gearbox was an absolute waste of time. I don't think any part of it worked. I watched it and I didn't laugh once. The guys like trying to be funny. They're doing this whole the whole mood around E3 this year seemed to be being self-aware that it's a conference and everyone was making jabs at like, oh, this is live streamed or some like random nonsense, right? Every conference did it. None of them were good whenever they did that. And Gearbox was geared around that. And it was so bad. And what also really upset me was that the guy's voice, when he was doing it, was doing a Duke Nukem impression. And there was no Duke Nukem. No Duke Nukem at all. So I'm super pissed off about that. And a lot of it was showing Randy bloody Pitchford or whatever, showing behind the scenes of the Borderlands movie, which they'd cut to all the time, when you don't see anything about that movie. They're like, here's a character that Cate Blanchett's showing, but she's all in shadow, so you can't see her. Here's Kevin Hart just saying about how much he loves Borderlands. It's like, come on, bro. Like, show something. And then they cut in like every 5 minutes. Homeworld, Homeworld, Homeworld 3. And I'm like, what the fuck is Homeworld? And they're like, winner at Game of the Year, 1999. It's like, fam, that's older than Spence. I'm like, what is going on? Like, why are we talking about fucking Homeworld? And so for me, none of it worked for me, literally none of it. And I was just like, this is so disappointing. It was like a complete waste of my time.
I was actually 1, thank you very much.
Do you remember Homeworld winning Game of the Year that year?
I stayed up all night for it, mate.
IGN and PCGamer.net.
Yeah, of course. How could I forget?
Madness. Lewis, you're number 8.
My number 8 is Gearbox. So
Hey.
we're just repeating ourselves. I mean, they did have Kevin Hart and Jack Black, so it goes a little higher, but not much more. I think it's still quite low down on my list. So yeah, I mean that's the reason it's above Bandai in VR, but it's still a terrible conference overall.
So boys, for my number 8, this might surprise you. Bit off pitch. Gearbox.
Hey.
Yeah, do I need to say anything or just Phil?
Yeah, same. Gearbox, just utterly pointless, mostly filler. I'm not a big fan of Borderlands anyway, so the stuff on the movie really just flew over my head. I didn't care at all. I was kind of waiting for some games, and ultimately, it was just nothing there that interests me. So Gearbox comes in at my number 8. How about you, Davey?
So my number 8, now this is going to surprise everyone, was actually Capcom. I thought Capcom's showing was really poor. Now, I didn't think Capcom would even be there in any real form, with the release of the game that can't be mentioned. With that just coming out, I honestly thought, yeah, what have they got? And they showed Phoenix Wright, which I don't really care about. Sure, it looked interesting, but don't really care. And Monster Hunter, and, Christ, I'm not a weeb, I got better things to do than to chase monsters around. And granted, me and Spence did try it, and we tried Monster Hunter World, and we said we'd probably platinum it, and we haven't touched it again. So it just wasn't a conference that spoke to me, but I can see why you guys will probably have it higher up on your list than I did. But yeah, so Capcom, my number 8. Oh, actually, one thing to note on this. The only thing I was glad about was we got a date for the game that can't be mentioned verse. We got a date for that. And I was happy with that. I was happy to hear it's coming next month. But that's literally it. It's like they mention, DLC's coming. It's like, yeah, no shit. What? Of course it is. But yeah, just nothing there. Just nothing there for me. Lewis, you're number 7.
Well, it's not much higher, but it's Capcom. I mean, you just said it'd be higher on my list, but it is only one place higher. What was the game I'm not allowed to mention?
I don't know. Just say a couple of different titles from Capcom. Try it. See what happens.
I absolutely love that you're playing the game already, Lewis. It's your second time on the show and you've got it. You've nailed it. You try and set Davey up, but you've got to wait till later on in the podcast after he's had a couple. And then you just go, what was that game you were playing? Right? Give him a little bit, right?
But yeah, that was Capcom. Pretty much everything you just said. I mean, I'll just be repeating what you said, to be honest. It was a bit disappointing. I was expecting more, but obviously they had nothing to show. If you got nothing to show, I don't understand why you're at E3, to be honest. And I can say that for a lot of these conferences. So yeah, Capcom is my number 7.
So for me, for my number 7, drumroll, it's Capcom.
This is crazy. I'm like, why? I'm rating everything like one harsher than you all. I suppose the only throwball into this is bloody Ubisoft coming in at like lower than Capcom, which is insane. But carry on.
Yeah, the reason Capcom is above Ubi is just because I like the game we can't mention. This is allowed, surely. I'm excited for that, so a date for that is nice. DLC, I don't really think the main game should have DLC, but I'll play it. So that's good for me. And I do really like Phoenix Wright. So as much as they didn't show very much at all, the stuff they did show did interest me. So I thought it'd fit quite well in 7th.
Spence, what was the name of the character in Phoenix Wright again? Because that cracked us up when we watched it
Oh,
together.
Herlock Sholmes, mate.
Oh my god, brilliant. I don't know how they get away with that. That's great. I love it.
Just for clarification, the game we can't say. Can I call it by his Japanese name? Like, or the name... I can't use that name
No,
either.
absolutely not. No, we'll pull that right up.
You have to dance around it really well.
No, okay, so I won't mention that either. Okay. Just double checking, because I was going to mention it by the Japanese name, but I'm glad I didn't.
Hold on, just what's the name in Japanese?
You can't set him up like that.
God damn it. Phil!
I don't know.
Come on, man.
Hey, he's backing me. He's backing me the whole show so far.
You made it obvious, to be fair, mate.
Oh, I can't
Even
believe
I wasn't
this.
that bad, and I was pretty bad, so...
The one thing that is decent of note is Herlock Sholmes. Good little nod to the book I bought a few episodes ago.
It is.
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. I did buy a Sherlock Holmes book like 2 episodes ago. That's nice, isn't it?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Now, listen, I mentioned earlier in the podcast that obviously we recorded this section before we recorded the start of the show. So Spencer, in the future, has shown us his chain. Right, I'm going to make a guess that it's probably Sherlock Holmes related by the fact he's got a book and now he's going on about it. I reckon it's a Hound of Baskerville on a chain.
Or it's like a magnifying glass.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Wouldn't
That'd
that
be cool.
That'd be sick.
There
Especially if
is.
it works.
Oh.
Oh, the dream. Multi-use chains. The absolute dream. Go on Dragon's Den with that one. Right, so, Phil, you're number 7.
Okay, guys. My number 7 is Capcom. There it is.
Wow.
I
Why?
can't believe this.
Oh my
Why?
god.
Why is it number 7? That's so different.
It's number 7 because there's a couple of games in there that, I very much enjoy. Can't be mentioned, obviously. Quite interested, actually, for the DLC. I know you boys are quite negative over the DLC for this game, but I'm really up for it because it's very difficult to talk about. But that game, number 7, that had DLC was really good. And it
Yeah, it
explained a lot about the story and a lot about the backgrounds of the characters, especially when it came to the family.
True, but I just don't feel like 8 needs that. I
No,
think
same as me.
Mate, we could talk about this all night and fuck E3 off, right? Because I would love to do that. I'm much more interested in what's the future of this game that we cannot mention. But it would be a podcast of us just not really saying anything. It'd be like a rap song where they swear a lot, okay? We can't
yeah,
go
and it's
down
on the
that
radio.
track.
It'd be like a radio edit.
We all feel the same about it, right? But I also really, really liked the Phoenix Wright stuff. The same with Spencer. It seems absolutely mental for a Westerner, I think, to enjoy this idea of this game, right? It's such a foreign concept, but I quite enjoyed it, and I probably will buy it.
Wow.
I think
Wow.
I think I'll probably buy it. It'll be an interesting one, depending on what it comes out, what price, what platform, and does it come as part of PS Plus or something like that? But I would definitely play it if I had the opportunity.
Wow, fair. Well, my number 7. Hope I'm not. Oh, I'm obviously not foreshadowing because it's already come up a couple of times. My number 7 is VR Showcase. That was my number 7. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fine. Well, it said number 7, so obviously I didn't really enjoy it. But I thought it was better than all those other conferences that we've gone through so far. And I was really surprised by how much just PSVR content there is. I thought the system would be way outdated by now, but it turns out that being the most popular version of VR, obviously, they're still making games for it. So that was a big surprise to me.
Davey, does it make you want to buy a headset?
No, but it does make me more interested in PSVR 2. And a couple of these games that if I had a PSVR 2, that there's a couple of them that I'd be like, yeah, I'll check out. Like that one on the train. Can't remember what that was called, where the guy climbs out the window. It's like Uncharted. That one was really cool.
That was like the first one they showed, wasn't it? But I'm the same, right? I listen to and read a lot of VR content, right? I'm interested in what's happening with the kind of environment of VR, but ultimately, it's just not got further enough for me. And I guess you're the same, right? You're up on the news, but ultimately, there's nothing there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even as an Xbox fan, I'm really interested in PlayStation VR 2. I mean, I've used the first one, and I just felt it was too clunky and had too many cables, and you had to use the move controls, which I just couldn't stand. The new controllers for the VR 2 look really good, and they're meant to have much better screens built in, and there's meant to be less cables. So if I am going to get a VR headset, I'll probably get one with a PS5 when I eventually get one. So if I was ever going to go to VR, that would be the one I would go into. So I hear what you're saying completely. Right. Well, this is where we actually get into the conferences which are like watchable. So I went with Square. That was my next one. I like Guardians of the Galaxy, but that was literally it. That was the only. I'm not a Final Fantasy fan, and there was about 600 Final Fantasy games in there. That's pretty much all it is, really. I like Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought it looked cool, but the Avengers game is still awful, and I'm not got any interested in doing the Black Panther stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it was one game I was interested in. The rest, I heard Final Fantasy Origins, which is supposed to be like Dark Souls. I've heard it plays better than it looks, but the trailer was awful for it, so I'm not sure if I would rate that very high. Yeah, I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy looked like the best game there. It was probably my favorite MCU film, and it looked like fun. It looked kind of like Mass Effect with a bit of sense of humor to it, but that was about it, really. I mean, this is the only game I was really interested in the whole conference, so yeah, that's why I put Square at my number 6. Spencer, what's your number 6?
It's crazy. It's crazy, boys. It's fucking Square. It's fucking Square Enix, isn't it? I'll say, I've written down 3 games that interested me from it. That's Life is Strange True Colors, because I love Life is Strange. I haven't gotten to playing Life is Strange 2 yet, and True Colors is kind of pushing me towards playing number 2. So that's good. Legend of Mana. I like the Secret of Mana games. I haven't visited the remakes they did, but again, gives me a reason to do it if I want to end up getting Legend of Mana. And Guardians, it looked very GTA to me in terms of physics and appearance. Davey disagreed with me with this because we watched it live together, but the entire game looked fantastic other than the combat being dog shit boring. And that might just be because they were only showing the start of the game, but the combat looked dull to no extent. It was horrid for me to watch that combat. I thought you just run around shooting stuff, and usually, yeah, that's most games, but it's all the special moves you do and such, you're not even doing them. It just look boring. But yeah, so that's made Square my number 6. Phil, how about you?
So my number 6.
Go on.
I think this was where it starts to get difficult for me. Because I think every conference from here on there actually had something to offer. My weakest one in that list of 6 was Ubisoft. So I've never really been a Ubisoft player, right? I'm trying to think of Ubisoft games I've played in the past and enjoyed. But going through their conference, the one game that really interested me, and I think it's just because of the innovation there, is Rocksmith Plus. I thought that, and the way they've changed that game to become something outside of a Guitar Hero clone to now a learning tool to learn guitar, to learn bass, is incredible what they've done there. And I'm genuinely thinking of taking up that service once it's released.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I mean, me and Spence were watching that live together, and I was popping off when he switched to tab view, and he was like, yeah, we got full tab in. And I was like, yes! I was like, oh my God, this is actually really good. I remember learning guitar when I learned, and I had like a DVD I put into my computer, and I'd play along to it, and it would be like tablature on the screen, but I had no way to know if you were right or not, and you'd kind of just guess that you were doing okay. So it's a variation of that and gamifying it. And I think that's probably the easiest way for you to learn. And if they built like trophies around that as well, Christ, that's like hitting every single one of the things that motivates me. Oh my God.
I love it, right? So I don't think I ever really properly learned how to play bass, right? Even though I was in bands and played shows and played music, but I never really got it, right? And I remember the amount of books that I got for Christmas and birthdays, right? Where you have the tabs and you have a CD and you play Blink-182, all the small things along to the CD, right? And that's what you did back in my day. But this is a genuine way to learn an instrument.
It is. Honestly, yeah, it is.
Love it.
I was just like you, I was blown away by that. Honestly, really blown away by it. And I never would have anticipated something like that to come out and just totally just shock me, just how good it was and just how innovative it is. Such a great idea. Such a great idea.
As I said, they've just changed it from being a Guitar Hero clone, where it's just a bit of mini-game fun, if you like, drunk with your friends, to actually being a thing that will teach you how to play the guitar properly.
All I was going to say is that I had Rocksmith previously, and you do realise it's an older franchise, and it did teach you how to play guitar previously as well, and it's not necessarily a new thing that it teaches you how to play guitar, right? I know.
Yeah.
Because
I know
it's the first time you've heard of Rocksmith, so I was a bit confused. To be honest.
But this is the first time that it's been like the improvements they've made from Rocksmith 1 to this now make it feel like an actual service that I'd want to invest in. Someone who like I can play guitar, I'm not like amazing or anything, but I can play to a better than average level, and it's something that if I had that tool, then I probably could have learned to be like amazing. Like there were people that I know went like classic guitar lessons and they were just insane, absolutely insane. And I never had that opportunity when I was learning to play guitar. And so I just deviated just to play metal and that's all I could play. And so to be able to have it so that you can learn like kind of Spanish guitar playing and stuff like that is just phenomenal. And to have it all broken down to those individual skills, you know, like sweep picking and tremolo and all that, I was just like, holy hell, this is so impressive.
I remember back in the day where we jammed, Davey, and you'd never played on clean before. You just played on overdrive and all your amps.
Everything's overdrive, max gain all the way up.
Oh my God, love it.
It's like a Spinal Tap thing.
But Rocksmith Plus, genuinely considering taking that service out. It all depends on price, of course. If it's affordable, then I'm in, but I don't know at what level that I would want to invest in. If I could just buy the game and I can play along with my bass guitar on my PlayStation, that'd be incredible. But if I'm paying £12-15 a month for it, we'll see what happens with the title.
I will say, Ubisoft's my number 9. I forgot about Rocksmith Plus. I completely forgot. That would probably bump it up maybe like 2 conferences, just because that is a fantastic service. You are completely right. I actually loved that section of it, and I forgot it happened. So that's my bad.
Well, then, before we collate our results, just change your list how you want it to be presented. It's not the end of the world. We can always just...
it'd just be Ubisoft would be pushed above Capcom. So Capcom down 1, Gearbox down 1.
Okay.
So on top of Rocksmith, and as I said, I've never really played Ubisoft games or really been interested too much in them, but I absolutely love the Turtles. And to see the Turtles in Brawlhalla, I was like, my eyes lit up. I'd really like to jump in on that game at some stage. That DLC looked great. To see them really cartoony, and they proper went to the old school, and it looked like a grainy 80s version of the Turtles before they jumped into the game itself. I'm up for that. If anyone wants to play me at Brawlhalla, drop me a DM. But
I'll clap your cheeks in Brawlhalla.
That's my Ubisoft picks. Davey, how about yourself? What was your number 6? I think we're at now.
So we are at. Let me just double check. Yeah, my number 6. So I seem to be one ahead of you guys for some reason. This is really weird. But my number 6. So hopefully it's not everyone's number 5. My number 6 was Devolver. So I love Devolver press conferences. I love them every single year. I love the narrative that they have. I love the setup. I think it's just really funny, really entertaining, really good. And normally, on top of that, they have a couple of games that really speak to me. But this time, there wasn't really those games there. So even though I was entertained throughout, really all I wanted was Hotline Miami 3. And what they had at the end just set me into a fit of rage, because they just had a Hotline Miami 3 fan suggestions box that was just overflowing right at the end, which is just a proper kick in the teeth. But I thought the games they had were okay, but they just weren't my cup of tea. And that was it, really. The only games that really stood out to me is Phantom Abyss. That's the only game there that I was like, wow, this looks amazing. This looks great. And that's definitely something I'm going to check out day one. But that's it. Everything else kind of went by the wayside. What about yourself, Lewis? Are you going to buck the trend, or is this going to be Devolver as well for number 5?
No, it is Ubisoft.
The curse is broken.
Yeah, I mean, the curse was broken last round because you had VR, but yeah. I like Rabbids plus Mario, or Mario plus Rabbids. I know you guys don't, but I thought the first one was really good. It was a good XCOM like clone for the Switch. I thought it was a lot of fun. So I mean, that there has put it up there for me. Obviously, all the stuff you said with Rocksmith I thought was really interesting. Rainbow Six, I can't even remember what it's called now. Extraction, is that what it's called? Because I remember it was called Pandemic, wasn't it? Before
Containment.
I
got it on the list. I'll have a look now.
I mean, that looked fun. And then obviously Brawlhalla. It was a good conference overall, but I thought there was 4 conferences which were more entertaining than Ubisoft.
It's called, just for the audience, it's called Extraction. Rainbow Six Extraction.
Yeah, because they had to change the name because of the pandemic and what's been going on, so fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I thought those were good games. Obviously, Mario plus Rabbids was my number one of the Ubisoft conference, but none of you seem to rate it that high. But yeah, I thought it was a really good game. And yeah, that's my number 5. So, Spence, what's your number 5?
My number 5. Xbox / Bethesda.
Insane.
Which
That's
Lewis
insane.
is shaking his head. Insane, apparently. I'm not sure about that. Really, there were only 4 games throughout that conference that interested me. And that was Stalker 2. And the reason was because it looked fantastic. And also, I played Stalker Call of Pripyat on my PC back when I first got my PC. It was one of the first games I had on Steam. And I didn't play it much, but I did really like that game. It was a really good game. So Stalker 2 would kind of give me a reason to go back, finish that game, and delve into the series. The other thing that I really liked was the Sea of Thieves freaking Pirates of the Caribbean DLC. That's insane. That is an insane crossover that I never would have expected in a million years. But as I've said before on the podcast, I really like Sea of Thieves. It's the reason I have Game Pass. I have Game Pass on my PC, and Sea of Thieves is the sole reason I have it. Actually, since then, I've cancelled my Game Pass subscription and I've just bought Sea of Thieves. So that's actually not even true. But it's a free update. I'm sure I'm going to play it. The other thing I really liked, it's a game that's been out for a long time. A lot of people say it should have won Game of the Year. It's Hades. And they basically showed it's coming to Xbox and I think PlayStation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's coming same date.
So,
it's coming same date.
Brilliant. So I want to play that game. I didn't really fancy buying it on my PC, but if I can get trophies on it, then I'm going to buy it on PlayStation. And then the last game they showed, which interested me, was Diablo 2. Because I'm really excited for the new Diablo 4. That's going to be phenomenal. I love Diablo 3. I've put countless hours into that game. And a friend of the podcast and of myself, Joseph Thomas, has told us that Diablo 2 is the best Diablo. Better than Diablo 3. So I need to find out if he's right.
It's one thing I agree with Joseph Thomas about, that Diablo 2 is the best.
I also
Diablo.
agree with that one.
That's crazy. Diablo 3 is so good. If it is, I'll be amazed, because Diablo 3 is phenomenal.
So there was 30 games shown, 27 of them are on Game Pass, and you're not interested in anything else apart from those 4 games?
No, I don't give a shit about Bethesda. I've never really cared about Bethesda games. The only games I like from them are Fallout 3 and New Vegas. And I've never even finished New Vegas. So, to be fair, Xbox buying Bethesda, a lot of people are like, oh my god, this is huge for Xbox. I didn't give a shit. I don't play Bethesda games. It was actually a brilliant purchase for me. It just means I don't have to see that game on the PlayStation. So it's blessed.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, so my number 5 is Devolver Digital. And this is the first time I've ever watched a Devolver E3 presentation, so I didn't really know what to expect.
So you don't know the lore. You don't know the Devolver lore.
Well, I kind of heard little bits and pieces, so I knew it was going to be different, and I think that's my word for this. It was different, right? But it was a lot of effort to put a dig into E3. It was a lot of effort to put a dig into EA, wasn't it?
Oh, the entire
They do it every year.
single year is like something different. Like last year was all about Game Pass, not Game Pass. What was it? Loot boxes last year.
It was
wasn't
loot boxes. Loot boxes.
and Bitcoin. It was that and Bitcoin, wasn't it? The two things that they were going after. So every year's something. And Nina's story, where she like is just an executive to start with, and then she becomes like a robot. Then like her head explodes, and she's on the operating table getting changed into a robot. And then this, which is like a daydream, it's an absolute madness, and it's well worth a watch. Even like years later, just going back and watching all of them because they're so funny. They're absolutely brilliant. I think it's the best way to do it ever.
It's the Devolver Cinematic Universe, mate.
That cracked me up so much when you were saying that.
It is brilliant, right? And I really enjoyed it. But the thing I enjoyed more was the chat that came along with the YouTube video I was watching. Because it's the reactions to the people watching this, and they're expecting, a game show. They're expecting, they're the same as me. They've never really watched one, and they'd never really heard that these are a little bit different, and they take it on kind of like this weird narrative where they, try and spice things up a little bit. I was just in fits of laughter. I didn't care about the games. Everyone's there going, where's the games? Where's the games? Where's the games? I didn't care. I just wanted to watch what was going on at Devolver. It was hilarious, man. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, Devolver do some absolutely incredible games. They're such a good publisher, and most of the games that I have played from them are brilliant. Really, really good. It's just a shame that the games let them down this year for me, because their press conference is normally in my top 3. I absolutely adore their press conference. I think it's one of the best. It's just so entertaining. Like you say, it just kind of captures you and you can't stop watching.
So you're not going to be getting the Max Pack... what do they call it? The Max Pass premium version of
it was
the subscription
Devolver
method.
Max Pass Plus, wasn't it?
That's it,
Devolver
yeah.
Max Pass Plus.
Yeah. So you're not going to be subscribing, Davey?
No, I'm not. No.
Mate, little do you know, you're already subscribed.
Yeah, everyone's a subscriber, and you get nothing with it.
Yeah.
It's premium content only. Premium content only.
I love that when they were like introducing the games, they were like premium content. It was just really cool. I really enjoyed it, and that's why it's so high, because I enjoyed the conference. Right, the games. There was probably one game that slightly interests me, and that was Wizard with a Gun, just because it had kind of Bastion vibes to me. That's the game it reminded me of. I really like that kind of like art style and kind of like perspective on a game. So I think, if that's a PC game, I would probably give that a couple of quid and play that through. But outside of that, I didn't really enjoy any of the games, but absolutely love the conference.
My number 5 is Ubisoft. So Ubisoft's gone into my number 5, and that's because there was a lot of games here that actually really spoke to me, and I was really surprised by it, actually, to be honest. We've already covered Rocksmith, and that was great. I really, really enjoyed that. But the other games that really spoke to me, and I'm surprised you guys haven't covered it yet, Riders Republic. I thought that game looked absolutely awesome. I've never seen downhill mountain biking done in a video game since, like, I suppose if you can count, like, Dave Mirra, maybe. That's BMX, though. But I haven't seen it like that to that extent. It just looked amazing being first person. It just looked really, really good.
I'd only heard of Matt Hoffman.
Yeah. Matt Hoffman's, yeah. And so that's the thing. It's not really done very well, or ever, anywhere. But it was done here, and it looked great. And then when it switched over to them, like, using wingsuits and then, like, snowboarding and everything else, it looked like Steep, but like an improved version of Steep. And it really got me going. The only thing I want to know is, do they have downhill cheese racing? Like where they chase that block of cheese in like Somerset down that massive steep hill? Do they have that in the game? Because this game's ripe for that. Imagine that, chasing a giant block of cheddar, putting your life on the line in a battle royale cheese race game. That is a winning formula right there.
That feels more like a Devolver Digital title than it does a Ubisoft, did you say? Yeah, Ubisoft title.
Yeah, maybe.
I was going to say, that sounds like a great VR game.
I think it's just so many options for the cheese market that it hasn't gone into yet. You know, Philadelphia can make their own brand. You know, maybe you get Dairy Lee. You know, there's so many options here. We could really get something out of it. But apart from that, I really liked, I mean, Christ, we saw it like 100 times over the entire conference. But I'm really interested in Far Cry. So Far Cry 6, seeing that, you know, I'm really happy to see that. Granted, we did see it like 10 times though. So it was a bit overkill. And the Avatar game. I'm probably one of the only people on the planet that really likes Avatar. And so I was really hyped seeing an Avatar game. I thought, yes, finally, I get to see my favourite director, James Cameron, get to see him deliver another little piece of the wonder that is Pandora.
Yeah, so my number 4 is Devolver Digital. Pretty much everything you said. It's just a fun conference. The only reason it's not number in the top 3 is because it didn't really show any games I was interested in, but it was still a fun watch. So as a bit of content, it was amazing. So, but as an actual games conference, maybe not so much. Maybe I put it a bit high, but I just enjoyed it. I can't actually remember any games I'm interested in from the conference. I just thought it was a funny conference, and that was pretty much my experience from it. So, honestly, you've kind of covered Devolver Digital really well, so I don't really know what else I can say. That was my number 4.
My number 4 was VR Showcase. Obviously, mine's going to be higher than you boys because I actually have an interest in VR. That is the difference. I'm part of the market. You can all look surprised, but you shouldn't be really. But the VR Showcase, it wasn't great. I'm going to say it really wasn't great. But again, the fact that a lot of the games they showed were Quest 2 and Quest 1, I was really grateful to see. Because the game we can't mention, number 4, getting a VR version of the game, I can't play that. So when I saw that before, I thought, fuck, I fucked up getting the Quest 1. Quest 2 came out a few months later. I can't play any games. So this conference kind of supported me. It kind of gave me faith. So the games I was interested in were Sniper Elite VR, because Sniper Elite's a great game. You get the slow-mo bullet time, and the woman said, I can't wait to shoot him in the dick, which, that conference was extremely PG.
That was class.
Until she said that. That was amazing.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
We proper cracked up over that, didn't we? We were proper laughing.
Yeah. It was like a proper Nintendo PG-13 conference the whole time, and then she just says, can't wait to shoot some dicks. And you're like, whoa. But other than that, Pistol Whip. Pistol Whip's a game that's been out for a while. It's kind of like Beat Saber, but with guns kind of thing, and that's just a really cool thing, and they've expanded on that. I thought it looked really interesting. I Expect You to Die 2. I also thought it was very cool. I haven't played I Expect You to Die 1 yet, but I know it's a great game. So maybe they could do a bundle, and I'd play them both. And the last game that I was interested in was Sam & Max. This time it is virtual, which Phil mentioned earlier. Sam & Max, I love Sam & Max. I've played, what was the game called? It was a poker game on Steam. Basically, Valve made a poker game. I think it's Valve. It might be Gearbox, actually. They made a poker game, and it includes loads of characters across Valve. Sam & Max are in there. Gearbox characters. There's just loads of characters. You just play poker with them, and it's really fun. And all the characters have their own charm from their own original games, and it's just really nice to see. So I really like Sam & Max, and I know them from that game. I knew them prior, but I never played any of their games. So this would kind of introduce me to this series, and escape rooms are fun. I feel like an escape room being in VR, it's just a perfect idea. Granted, I don't think it's too much of a game, but it's just one big puzzle. I think that sounds quite fun.
Spence, did you play any of the Sam & Max kind of Telltale-esque games like
I haven't, no.
The Penal Zone? You know, it's full of comedy, honestly. I highly recommend them. They're super old games, but hilarious. To be fair, the same graphics as probably what we saw in the VR conference.
VR games, yeah.
Exactly the same. But I remember going to DreamHack back in the day when I went over to play competitive WoW, and I spent most of my time playing Sam & Max. Honestly, hilarious games.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to revisit them, so that's kind of given me the interest to do that. So that's why I put VR Showcase as my number 4. Phil, mate, what's your number 4?
Okay, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, aren't we? So my number 4 was Xbox Bethesda.
Okay.
Sorry, Lewis. This is probably where we differ in opinion. But unfortunately, there was nothing really there for me that was overly exciting, that was specific to Xbox. There was a lot in there that I kind of liked, right? So there was Back for Blood, there was Battlefield, and I really interested in both those games. Okay, I've never been a huge Battlefield fan, but that game looked outstanding in that conference. Absolutely incredible. And I'm in. If you boys are in, I'm in to play that game because we have to play it multiplayer. I wouldn't want to play it on my own. And the same for Back for Blood. I think we'd already agreed on playing that, okay? And Back for Blood, I'll talk about a little bit later because I've got some details on why I like that game and what's been shown.
I would play Back for Blood with you, but it's on Game Pass, so I'm not going to, pay another 70 quid to play it. So just going to put it out there.
For sure. There was 2 other games that sort of caught my interest a little bit, and we might talk about them a little later. And one of them was Atomic Heart. I quite like the aesthetic of that, but we'll go into detail a little bit later. And Party Animals. I thought that looked great. And that's where I'll leave it, because those might come up later.
Right then. So, my number 4. Is Square Enix. So, Square Enix, even though it wasn't a super long show, it's, for the length of show that it was, the amount of games that spoke to me was incredible. So, in terms of what they showed that really spoke to me, Guardians of the Galaxy, you guys have already covered it, and I agree with pretty much everything you all have said individually. So, like Spence said, the combat looked a little bit weak, but then when they showed towards the end of that trailer, and they show kind of how Star-Lord's powers had kind of developed, it gave me kind of faith that, yeah, it's going to build to something. And really, I just love the Guardians. So this was totally out of left field for me. I didn't expect this. And I was really impressed by it. And that's definitely a day one for me. The other game that put it up so high on this list to really make it to the number 4 position for me is Life is Strange True Colors. So I'm a massive Life is Strange fan. And seeing how they've done the power of empathy and how that works in terms of being able to kind of manipulate people's emotions and get them to act certain ways and stuff just looks awesome. I'm so in for that, and seeing how much kind of effort's been put into the presentation on this as opposed to the earlier Life is Strange games just gives me so much faith. It just looks really impressive. So I can't wait to get my hands on Life is Strange True Colors and really just try it out. And that's what made it go up to my number 4 slot. So we're into the big 3. Lewis, your number 3, please.
My number 3 is the Keeleys, a.k.a. Kickoff Live, a.k.a. Game Fest. That one, yeah. Metal Slug Tactics, I'm totally into. I love Metal Slug. That's such a good series, underrated. Tiny Tina's Wonderworld looked interesting. But obviously, it's all about Elden Ring. To be at the end of the day, that was pretty much what everyone was talking about afterwards. I love Souls games, but they don't love me. I suck at them, but I enjoy them. I can never get that far into them, but I own every single Souls game, but I've never finished one. But I'm hoping this will be the one I actually finish because it has the open world. It looks really interesting, Elden Ring. So, I mean, that's why I liked Game Fest, but it did have a slump in the middle where it was a bit boring, I personally felt, but I thought it was still a good conference all in all.
Well, I think Miyazaki, one thing that's probably given you a little bit of faith in this is that Miyazaki's come out, the lead designer, and he said that Elden Ring's an easier experience than the rest of Dark Souls, which doesn't speak to me. Because I love the challenge, and I've beaten every single Dark Souls games. I personally don't find them that much of a challenge. I don't think they're that hard. I think Returnal's way harder than those. Obviously, I know you couldn't have played that, Lewis. Being on Xbox. I
mean, random regeneration, stuff is difficult, I guess. When you just randomize everything, there's not really much skill involved. But yeah, I suppose you're right.
Oh my god, you are talking crazy, my mate.
That's insane.
That's actually
that is
a nuts
mental
statement. So the good thing is that there's still only one difficulty in Elden Ring. So it's still going to be challenging, but just probably not to the same extent that the rest of the series is.
But I do love the Souls games, even though I'm rubbish at them. So I'm really looking forward to Elden Ring. It looks really fun. I'm going to definitely give it a shot. I'm probably not going to beat it, but I will give it another go anyway.
I'm a big fan of the Souls games as well. Elden Ring speaks to me tenfold. I'm not a big fan of open world games, but all the Souls games I love. Same as Davey, I love the challenge. They're probably not as hard as Returnal.
So Game Fest is my number 3. As I said, it kind of pitted off in the middle. It was a bit rubbish in the middle of the conference, but the beginning was really strong. The end was really strong. Kojima was a little bit of a disappointment for me, because I predicted that there would be Metal Gear Solid there. I love Kojima, don't get me wrong. I just thought the interview was kind of lackluster. All it was, and Death Stranding's being resold to you again for another $70. But I love Kojima. I would love to have seen a new game from him. But there you go. Unfortunate. That's just one of those things. But love the conference, apart from the dip in the middle with like Call of Duty Warzone and stuff. That's Game Fest is my number 3.
For my number 3, I've got Devolver. And that's, granted, I've only noted down 2 games that really spoke to me from Devolver. So I'll read those and then I'll explain why they're number 3. Basically, it's Shadow Warrior 3, because I've played the first one. I haven't touched the second one, I don't think. But they're fantastic games. They're very like Doom-esque in the way they play. They're just very fun. You just kind of dive in and just have a great time. The other game, Davey mentioned earlier on, Phantom Abyss. That looks fantastic. Having to beat all these trials and not only learn from your own mistakes, but learning from other players' mistakes. That just seems like such a great idea for a game. It just seems really fun. And then the other reason I put them down is just pure presentation. I love the DCU. I think it's fantastic. Every year, even if they don't really show many games or they show a bag of shit, it's so fun to watch. I love it. And granted, I did miss, because last year they had a lot of audience reactions where they'd pan over to the audience and you'd see some guy asleep or someone just popping off or someone eating popcorn. They didn't do that this year, and I do wish they did. But even though they missed out on that, I still thought it was an excellent presentation. And I feel like different to like Gearbox and Capcom, they know they don't have that much to show. They know they don't. But they make it an experience. They make it worth the watch, which I feel like other companies probably shouldn't do what they do, because what they do is insane, but should at least try to learn from them, because they make it entertaining and worthwhile.
Well said. Well said.
Hear, hear.
Phil, mate, what's your number 3?
My number 3 was Jeff Keighley himself, Mr. Suit and Trainers, the Summer Games Fest. That comes in at my number 3. A couple of interesting games in that list for me. Obviously, Death Stranding stood out, but we might talk about that a little bit later. I was quite interested in Lost Ark, which is the Amazon game itself. I know, Davey, you've sort of noted down that it is a Diablo ripoff, I believe, in the doc. But I'm really interested to what Amazon is going to be doing in the gaming kind of sphere.
Yeah, for me, when I looked at it, Lost Ark, I just thought, this is so unoriginal. It's actually insane, because the guy's voice, even the guy who was like announcing it, just sounded like he was Diablo guy. I was just like, oh my god, it's the demon's voice from Diablo. I was like, oh, they're showing Diablo? And it's like, an Amazon Games exclusive, whatever. And I was like, oh no. I was like, oh no. Now, I know Amazon have bought loads of different teams, and they're really trying to kickstart something off. I'm mega skeptical.
But for me, that piqued my interest. You know, I'm really interested to what Amazon is going to be doing when it comes to gaming. Also, I really enjoyed the Weezer performance. That stood out to me. I know it's not a game, but just a little shout out to Rivers and the crew over there at Weezer. I love Weezer. I'm an old school kind of like, I like that kind of music, emo punk, you know. But Weezer, great performance.
See, I use that as a toilet break. I don't know about you guys. That was when I went to the loo.
Christ, we're gonna fall out.
I like Weezer, but
so I was on Messenger at the time to fan of the show Willard, and we were both like, Weezer, lol. And then I listened to it, and then I was like, why don't I listen to Weezer? I always remember that I really like everything I hear by them, but I just literally never listen to them. So, and I suppose the question the audience should bite in to know, have I listened to them since? No. It's probably going to be another 2 years, and I'll hear them again and be like, I really like Weezer, I should listen to them. And then just never do.
The next time we go to Birmingham, mate, I'll have it on in the car.
No, you won't.
I love Weezer.
It's
Top
Pete and
band.
Baz all day, mate. You know this. Pete and Baz all day. In PS We Trust, a Pete and Baz fan cast.
Or UK Grime.
I enjoy Weezer just fine. It's just the fact it was in the middle of a games conference. It just felt really out of place, and that's why I had no interest in it. I was there for games, and I wasn't there for Weezer, even though they do great stuff. That's all I really had to say about that. That was my opinion.
Well, speaking of games, let's bring this on to my number 3. My number 3 is Xbox and Bethesda. And the reason, before Lewis starts, signing me into his death note, the reason why it's in my number 3 is because it was really disappointing. It was really disappointing. I went into this conference really feeling like Xbox were going to kill it. They were going to give me a reason to buy an Xbox. They were going to convince the people that don't own an Xbox, which is 2/3 of this current next generation, a reason to dive in. And they didn't do that. Everything they showed that was exclusive was next year, and it was a CG trailer. It's like, sure, they showed Forza, and that looked great. Forza looked fantastic. I don't like racing games.
Great environments.
Yeah, they talk about the environments a lot, not the cars. Forza looked good. I thought Halo looked really weird. I thought the multiplayer looked really disappointing, actually. I thought in terms of gameplay, I thought it looked great. But in terms of graphical performance, I thought it looked really, really bad. And I was like, oh, well, it's probably just been downplayed for the multiplayer because it's free to play, it's just get everyone in. The campaign's going to look awesome. What do we get? CG trailer. It's like, it's out in a couple of months. Why aren't you showing any of the campaign footage? Like, that's why I don't buy Halo for the multiplayer. I know a lot of people want to, but you're selling this game, or Game Pass in this game, on the fact that it's a campaign game, because it's free to play on the multiplayer. Show it. It's out in a couple of months. I honestly, I reckon this game's pushed. I don't reckon it's hitting this year. I honestly don't. It looked rough. It looked really rough. If you compare that to, Christ, you compare that to Killzone Shadowfall. It came out on PS4, and it looks better than that. And that is, honestly, it does. And I was really disappointed by it. I thought it looks really bad. Across the rest of the exclusive stuff, I mean, Starfield, Spence already covered it. Starfield, I mean, why is anyone even excited by it? At the moment, I have no idea. It's literally just showing someone in a cockpit. Starfield 2022. Brilliant. Nothing. We know nothing about it. And that was the same story for everything they showed, really. The games that I really did enjoy, and this is why it went to my number 3, are Hades. And guess what? It's coming day and date to PlayStation. Stalker, exclusive Xbox for 3 months. It means nothing, right? It's like, come on, Xbox. I want you to succeed. I want you to really bring some fire. And for me, there just wasn't anything there that did that. I think next year, when we get to next year and we see the results of this, I think this could be a totally different thing. But right now, nothing. Nothing for me.
It feels like the conference before the conference, doesn't it? It feels like they're setting up for next year, in my opinion, as well.
Yeah, and I think with Game Pass, yeah, everything's Game Pass. Great. I've said this before on the podcast. This is nothing new to listeners. Sorry. My chest's really tight today. Game Pass is a service that if you're already in that ecosystem, it's a way to keep you in it. But in terms of getting somebody into that ecosystem, I don't think it's an effective tool. And I think that's obvious by the numbers. And sure, the take-up's okay. It's pretty good. But Xbox themselves are getting absolutely trounced at the moment, and they need something to bring that back. And you don't do that without games. So it doesn't matter how good the value is of the overall system and the package you have, you need the games to support that. And until they can show those games in motion, they can show what you're kind of getting from that experience, it's not going to convince anyone. And that's why I think it was a disappointment.
Well, I totally disagree with everything you just said, but I will get into that when I eventually get to that part of my list. So this is my number 2. I've been umming and ahhing between my 1 and my 2 for a while, and it's like, do I want to suck up to the PlayStation podcast, or do I just want to be honest? So my number 2 is Nintendo. Even though I love Nintendo, it was my number 2. They had Metroid Dread, which was like the best surprise out of any conference in the entire show, by far, and I'm really looking forward to it. Nintendo had the best surprises, I'll give you that, but then I did know a lot of the stuff that was coming at the Xbox conference well in advance because I listened to like a million Xbox podcasts. Kazuya, I was a little bit disappointed about, to be honest. I love Tekken, but it wouldn't be my choice. Mario Party would be fun. I love Mario Party, and it's online. I'm really looking forward to that, even though it's a load of old content repackaged. But it's online, which is nice. WarioWare was fun. And then I love Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild 1 was my favorite game of the decade. I did a video of my games of the decade. It was my number 1 with a bullet, and I don't care. You're giving me the evil face. Breath of the Wild is an amazing game. It is, and I don't care. And I can't wait for Breath of the Wild 2. Even though it's 2022 and they didn't really show much, but I was looking forward to that, and I thought it was a really good game. And I think it was a good conference. The Nintendo conference, I had a lot of fun with it. It was quick. It was 40 minutes. There was a lot of Nintendo's B or C tier games and not much of their A tier games. It was just Zelda was the only A tier game there. I love Metroid, but it is their B tier. I'm getting the evil looks from you guys, I know. But...
Right, 2 things to say. 2 things. Breath of the Wild as game of the decade is mad. It's a great game, yeah. Not nowhere near game of the decade. I don't think it even makes my top 10.
I mean,
That's
we were game of the
crazy to
decade
me.
video. My number 2 was actually The Last of Us Part 1, by the way, just FYI. So that was a PlayStation game in my number 2. So.
Oh. Attaboy. All right,
So-
yeah. To be fair, you won some favour
I
there.
was just going to say, you're still in the episode, Lewis.
I know I'm not coming back. So I better just fire my shots now. Really.
I literally said on mine, if Last of Us 1 was...
Go on.
I'm going off now. But if Last of Us 1 was on PS4 and not PS3, if it launched like early exclusive, that'd have beat Last of Us 2 for me. It'd been a game of the decade, so big. But yeah, Breath of the Wild, insane. Also, this one conference you haven't spoke about, so we know what your number 1 is. As an Xbox fanboy, that sounds mad biased to me.
Well, I did explain to you just then is that did I want to suck up to you guys, or did I want to be honest? And I'm gonna be honest because I was gonna say Nintendo was my favorite, just kind of to curry favor, but I changed my mind and just went with what I wanted to be honest with you guys, and I felt
You shouldn't do that.
Xbox was very strong, and I will cover that when I get to Xbox in a minute.
That's fair. I want to hear your thoughts. I'm looking forward to it.
Speak your mind. Don't worry about judgment. It doesn't matter what these clowns have to say, Lewis. You're in a safe place.
I'm saying I think it's biased. I want you to tell me otherwise. I want you to tell me why I'm wrong.
I've got a big list of reasons, so don't you worry.
That's what I mean.
So, Spence, over to you then. What is your number 2?
Number 2. My number 2. Big suit and trainers himself. Summer Games Fest, Geoff Keighley. Obviously. Fucking Elden Ring,
was good.
baby. Elden Ring's huge. Yeah, I just can't wait. I can't believe they showed gameplay. I'm buzzing for it. Looking forward to playing it. I love the Souls series. Elden Ring's just going to be phenomenal. So that's just win for me. Death Stranding Director's Cut, as people who listen to the podcast know, I didn't play Death Stranding. I haven't played it. So the Director's Cut is a perfect excuse for me to get it on PS5, play an upgraded version, and experience the game. So I'm really looking forward to that coming out and buying that. Obviously, Back 4 Blood being shown. We're all looking forward for Back 4 Blood. Back 4 Blood's going to be phenomenal. I'm a big Left 4 Dead 2 fan. Love it. Can't wait to play it. And then the last game that interested me was Evil Dead. Evil Dead looked fantastic, which is really weird. I didn't expect it to look anywhere near as good as it looked, but the animations and all just looked brilliant. So I'm really looking forward to that game. So that's Summer Games Fest at my number 2. So Phil, mate, what's yours?
My number 2, I don't know if people have been keeping track, but there's 2 titles I haven't mentioned. And one of them is Square Enix. That comes in at my number 2.
Wow,
That's really surprising for me. Really surprising.
Really surprising for me
Is it
too.
really surprising considering I'm not a huge Souls guy?
Yeah, just because you had Death Stranding.
Yeah, but it's DLC in it. It's not like a full game, or it's not Death Stranding 2, right? If it was Death Stranding 2, obviously it's shoot to number 1, right? Regardless of what Nintendo are doing. Not to foreshadow my
Spoiler.
top pick, but it's pretty obvious, right? For anyone keeping up with the numbers. Square Enix, they produce quite a lot. I love Marvel. Guardians, huge. I cannot wait for that game. As you said, day one, I am in. I cannot wait for that game. It sold me straight away. I have all the comics. I absolutely love the movies, same as Lewis. They are my favourite. They're up there. They're high up there when it comes to Marvel. It's so hard with Marvel.
They're not the X-Men, are they? They're not the X-Men.
They're not the X-Men and they're not Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So it's very hard, isn't it? But when it comes to the Avengers, I think they're my favourite Avenger.
Okay.
I'm sticking
mean.
with that. I've said that on said that on the podcast. They are my favourite Avenger. They're the one I've bought the most merchandise for anyway. I had all the pops at one stage, but they are all up in the loft now.
Oh, sorry, Davey. When you say Marvel, you're saying that X-Men is better than Guardians of the Galaxy. Are you saying James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy is worse than the Fox universe, or are you just saying comic books?
I'm talking about comic books. Although X-Men 2 is a better film than the Guardians anyway. Like, X-Men 2 is one of the best comic book films ever. It's an incredible film. It really is. It really is. I hate this revisionist thing, like where people say about Spider-Man, like the Sam Raimi trilogy being rubbish, and it's actually just incredible. Like, Spider-Man 2 is the best superhero film, in my opinion. It's just, I mean, you got Infinity War, right? You got Infinity War. But outside of Infinity War, it's up there. And yeah, the X-Men comics, the X-Men 90s animated series is better than everything, in my opinion. It's just the best. It's just incredible.
Anyway, Square Enix. Guardians, brilliant. And Avengers, I really need an excuse to jump in on that game. And I think Avengers Black Panther, I love Black Panther. This could be the excuse for me to play this game.
We've said before on the podcast, we got it on PlayStation Now for the next month until the end of August. We could just jump on it. We could just jump on, get a month, and just play it.
I was going to say, like with the Guardians of the Galaxy, they are dramatically different from what you see in the MCU.
Yeah.
And I quite like seeing a new take on an old favourite. And that's why I was hugely excited for the Square Enix.
Yeah, like I saw Drax, and when I saw Drax, I was watching it live with Davey, and I was like, "Is that Drax?" I couldn't even tell at first, and then as soon as they zoomed in on him and I actually saw him, I was like, "Oh my god, that's Drax!"
But Star-Lord looks totally different as well.
Yeah, they all look completely different, other than Rocket, who you can only do so much
Gamora.
with. Gamora.
Yeah, looks fit in that game. I must admit, looks great. My emo.
She's no She-Hulk,
my emo
but yeah.
kind of attraction there. Very nice model there.
So we've moved off from Lady Dimitrescu now. That's gone. My obsession with her is gone. We're now Gamora.
What game is she from
game.
again?
Oh my god. Anyway.
That's insane.
Which one? Gamora.
I've only had 3 beers, Lewis. It's too early yet, mate.
Gamora's from the Guardians
I've had
of the
6.
Galaxy. But I think someone mentioned earlier, Square Enix is so embedded when it comes to kind of Final Fantasy. I'm not a Final Fantasy guy. I didn't give a about any of those games. I'm just interested in what they're doing with the Marvel license, and that's why it's so high up my list. I was hyped for both those games. Davey, what's your number 2?
So my number 2 is the Summer Game Fest. That is my number 2, and there's quite a few reasons for it. So one, me and Spence obviously always have to agree on everything. But no, the real reason more than anything is because I went into this with the lowest expectation you can possibly imagine. I went into this thinking it was going to be like the Game Awards, where I come away every single year really disappointed, really feeling like there was nothing there. And instead, I came out loving so many games that were shown there. So Spence has pretty much named most of them that really took my fancy. You know, with House of the Dead and Battlefield and Death Stranding and Death Stranding. This is the one I want to spend a bit of time on. That trailer was an emotional roller coaster for me because I picked up immediately the music was Metal Gear. The music was Metal Gear. It was pretty much ripped exactly from it. You see a rat going into a vent, which is how they show you how to get into the vent in Metal Gear Solid 1. And I was like, and then he's turning around and I was like, this looks like he's in the warehouse where you fight Vulcan Raven in Metal Gear Solid 1. And I was like, what the hell? Is this what I think it is? And then he turns to the cardboard box and gets in it, and I'm like, oh my god, Metal Gear Solid confirmed, right? Kojima's on it. Kojima's on the case. And my tinfoil hat's on, boys. I reckon it's coming. I honestly reckon we're getting Metal Gear. I reckon we're getting it. I reckon it's happening. I reckon it is. I reckon this is what he's foreshadowing. My tinfoil hat is on, and Ira's popping off. And personally, I've said on this podcast quite a few times already, I'm desperate to go back to Death Stranding anyway. So if I can get it as a PS5 kind of version of that game, as a director's cut, extra content, finally get the platinum, I'm in. Day one purchase, play through it all again. Fucking loved that game.
Yeah, so everything you were just saying is why I was disappointed with the Kojima thing, because I was like, oh, Metal Gear Solid, yes, Metal Gear Solid, and then he was like, oh, it's not Metal Gear Solid. Damn. It was like, oh, and he was like, he had this really long conversation about 9/11, which was weird, and then it was that, and then it wasn't Metal Gear, even though it was a lot of teasing towards Metal Gear. It wasn't Metal Gear, which that's why I was personally disappointed, because I love Metal Gear Solid. And I agree with you. I think there is one coming at some point. I don't know how, but I feel like in my bones, I feel there's a new Metal Gear somewhere along the lines.
Definitely. And I mean, the thing I found his talk really interesting because, Lewis, you haven't played Death Stranding, have you?
No, I haven't. No.
So Death Stranding, he was talking about how for his new game, it's about going to having an experience and it being a bit more interactive. And that's one of the critiques that I see quite often for Death Stranding is that it's just a walking simulator. And that is like the simplest way to describe Death Stranding. Death Stranding is so much more than that. And I personally love Death Stranding. I mean, Phil is Phil's best game of last generation. You know, on this podcast, we evangelize it. We love it. We absolutely love it. But I can see it's not for everyone. And so if he was talking about how his creative process has changed, and how the fact that he made Death Stranding and then Death Stranding actually happened with the coronavirus and how it's like he just wanted to go back to basics. And I found all that talk really interesting. I mean, Christ, anything that guy says, I'm captive. I'm totally captive. I'm a massive stan for Kojima. He's my favorite developer. I love everything he does. And so for me, I found all that interesting. And I was just really surprised that Jeff's managed to pull it off, wearing great trainers with a great suit, and it looked normal, right? It didn't look like he was wearing some crazy shoes with it like Phil always hates. I thought, oh, Phil's going to actually enjoy this a little bit more. He looks more smart casual. So Phil, what's the result? Are you sending him hate mail, or are you warming up to him a little bit more?
I said to Spencer before this podcast kicked off that actually what JFK Lee was wearing,
okay,
all right? It did match. It was a t-shirt with a suit, which I don't mind, right? Smart casual. But he's still wearing trainers. The trainers matched and they were seamless. They weren't like overly gearish like he normally goes for. He's normally got like flashing lights on him, like he's got LA Gears wearing it with like a Ted Baker suit. That's what I expected.
Yeah, instead it was just the black and white suede like Vans style shoes. And I was like, yeah, do you know what? I can vibe with this. And I thought that kind of presentation, smart cash, was how I viewed the entire presentation. I thought it was a really nice, smartly put together presentation. Very nicely done. Loved it. So Lewis, bring it home then. You're number one.
Ooh, here we go.
See if it shocks
Here we
anyone.
go. Well, my number one, hang on, let me Just take a drink real quick.
Audience, he's drinking out of an Xbox little flask.
I'm not biased, right?
That he's got there.
I swear. And my number one is Xbox, and I know you guys don't like you weren't fussed on it. I can understand what you were saying in part, but Xbox came out. They showed 30 games, 27 of them. I'm already drunk, even though I've drunk barely anything. So, 27 of these games are coming to Game Pass. And when I was in work today, I was going through my calendar and I was putting down what games I'm interested in playing for the rest of the year. And I had listed it down and I got 18 games that I want to play between now and the end of 2021. 4 of them are on the Switch. 14 of them are on Game Pass. I love Game Pass. I love a lot of the games they showed. I think Nintendo had better surprises because I didn't know about half the stuff they were going to show. But I really like a lot of the Xbox lineup. I know it's maybe not your guys' cup of tea, but I really enjoy a variety of games. I do feel that PlayStation has a lot of third-person adventure games, which is not really my cup of tea a lot of the time. I like to have a lot of variety. You got Flight Sim, which I enjoy, or I want to try at least. Forza, I thought was beautiful. I love racing games. You have the Outer Worlds 2, which granted was just a teaser trailer, but you know, Starfield. You had Redfall, which is vampires, which is Vampire Left 4 Dead, I guess. You have Back 4 Blood, which you guys already said looks amazing. I know that's not an exclusive, but that was at the conference. I love Halo. I know you didn't like the trailer at all. I thought it looked fantastic. As a Halo fan, I have played every Halo game, and to me, 343 have gone off the rails with Halo when they made Halo 4 and Halo 5. This looks like a return to classic Halo. So I still play Halo 3 on a regular basis. I love Halo 3. That was my favourite game growing up, and it's still a lot of fun to play. Probably my favourite shooter ever. And this one looks like it's taken a lot of steps from Halo 3. Maybe it's nostalgia bait. Maybe they're just going after my nostalgia. But I feel like it looks really fun. And I know you guys probably watched it. There was a multiplayer breakdown after the fact, and they were really like breaking down the fact that they have battle passes instead of loot boxes, because I can't stand loot boxes. And you have to earn your unlockables. You have to earn your stuff that you unlock, and everyone could unlock. Sorry, I'm not being very eloquent here, but essentially, everything you can unlock for your character, you have to unlock by playing the game, and you don't unlock anything by just buying it straight up. You don't just buy, I like that costume, I'll pay £10 for that. I like that costume, I'll pay for that bit and that. You have to buy the battle pass, you have to complete it to unlock the certain costumes, which I personally prefer, because I know you guys never played Halo 3, or not very much. With Halo 3, I'd always remember seeing people with the katana on their back, and they had the Katana Hayabusa armor, and that was what I would always think of when I see Halo, is that guy must have done well to unlock all that costume, and they must be a good player of the game. And now when I play multiplayer shooters, if someone has a cool outfit, I'm like, oh, they spent £10 on a loot box, and they got lucky.
I totally agree with you when it comes to outfits and vanity items based on skill, right? A lot of the time when you play games, you can just pay X amount of money, you get the best skin in the game. But I quite like some skins being based.
That's essentially what I'm trying to say without,
and that's what you're talking
in a
about.
rambly, drunk ass way. That was what I was trying to say. Yeah.
But that's totally fine. I was the influence for you getting out the Jack Daniels and having a couple of drinks, so I'll take responsibility for you tonight, Lewis. But what I was going to say to you is, you said you play a lot of Halo and you play a lot of shooters. Do you ever play it competitively? Because we've got a mutual friend who's very good at Halo, haven't we, Davey?
Yeah, I got 2 friends that play competitive Halo. So my friend Brett, he's an old school Halo fan. So Halo 2 played, and Halo 3 played competitive. And then my friend Ray.
And an absolute lad on a night out. So if you ever get a night out with Brett, I'd advise that.
I agree. He does dribble in his pants a bit, but yeah.
It happens to us all at this age. But my friend Ray is one of the best players in Europe for Halo. And he plays competitive now to this day. Loves it. Loves the new style of Halo.
Loves it.
Can't stand the old style. And I haven't asked his opinion on this yet. But I kind of want to push back on you a little bit, if you don't mind, Lewis. And that's because I'm a massive fan of Halo. A big fan of Halo. I've been a fan of Halo ever since day one. It was the first game I played LAN. It's the first game I played online when I went around a friend's house and played on Xbox Gold. I love Halo. I love it. And I just expect Halo to be one of those premier franchises like they are with God of War or with Horizon or Uncharted or Last of Us, that really shows what the system can do. And for me, I don't care if it's the art style that's the reason why it's held back. You have that for a Switch. You don't have that for the most powerful console on the market. You don't say, oh, well, the reason it looks a little bit shit is because they've chosen an art style. No, there's no excuse for it. There's literally no excuse. They could do this in the best possible way. And this game just doesn't look ready. And that is just inexcusable for Halo, which should be one of the biggest franchises of all. It's their pillar for Microsoft. And sure, they're moving into a newer kind of generation now where it's not so focused on Forza, Gears of War, and Halo. They've got extra strings to their bow. But you still need that there. And if you don't have that as your killer franchise, and it just looks subpar compared to this year's Call of Duty and this year's Battlefield, what's the point?
Okay.
That's my point.
Well, subjective is what I would say that is, because you'll say it looks shit. I think it looks good. So it's personal taste. I think it looks like a fun game, and I think it looks good for what it is. I think it's a fun shooter, and I think it looks really good. So I said personal taste. I respect your opinion, but I respectfully disagree. I think it looks like a fun game. When I watched the multiplayer trailer, I thought it looked incredible, and I just couldn't wait to play it. To be honest, that's what I got from it, and I'm kind of shocked that I'm not shocked because I'm in the PlayStation podcast, but I feel like I'm the odd one out here.
I think no. I thought gameplay-wise it looked great. I thought gameplay-wise it looked like a really good step in the right direction. I just wish that it had the graphical prowess to back it up and make it feel like a premium game. Whereas at the moment it feels like, or it looks like, a free-to-play game.
We don't all mean to jump on you with this, Lewis, but of course this is the reason we got you on the show to hear the Xbox argument. There's bound to be many listeners out there in the NPS We Trust world that agree with me, and of course some of them might agree with you. They might be multi kind of system players. They might have an Xbox as well as a PlayStation. Okay, so don't worry.
He's entitled to his opinion.
I just want to call off the dog.
He's entitled to his opinion. I respect
here.
it. I mean, it's not my opinion, but he's entitled to it. I feel like the Craig stuff last year was a bit unjustified and a bit overblown, and now it's kind of kind of impossible. I feel like Xbox is in a hard place here. No matter what they show, they're going to kind of get scrutinized. I feel like the same thing happened with Horizon with the chubby Eloy stuff that's happened, which I thought was absolutely stupid. And I feel like, that kind of stuff. It's just that's my opinion. I feel like they showed the environment again, but obviously they didn't show the same gameplay footage they showed last year because there would be too many comparisons. And I feel that they kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to that one. I thought the multiplayer looked good, but
No, don't confuse what I'm saying here. I'm not saying for a second from a fanboy perspective, right? Because I want nothing more. Honestly, you won't find somebody else on the podcast that literally says the amount of times that I do. I want Xbox to succeed because I want them to push PlayStation to be better, right? And that's why I'm so disappointed in this conference. And granted, it's in my top 3, right? So it was good. It was a good conference, but I just wanted exceptional. I wanted what the first place gave me. I wanted that kind of feeling from it, and I didn't get that. And I just feel like it's a missed opportunity. And that's why I'm so harsh on Xbox, is because I want them to really kick PlayStation's ass. So PlayStation feels like it has to do better. Whereas from this conference, I just feel like they just didn't achieve that.
I totally disagree with that because, as I said, there's 14 Xbox games that I want to play this year. There was 27 shown on Game Pass that I want to play a lot of them over the next few years. 2021 looks stacked. 2022 looks even better. 2023 will be insane. I mean, they have a long lineup of stuff. I agree with you with the Starfield thing. It was a bit disappointing because all it was in-game footage. But at least we know it's coming, and at least the exclusivity thing is finally sorted because I've had a lot of debates about the exclusivity issue.
Oh, I would want to jump in on this, actually. You've raised a really good point I wanted to make sure I covered here. Literally, if there's any listeners on here that are going online and talking shit about how the fact that Starfield is exclusive, grow up, okay? Grow up. We are PlayStation fans. All we do is make stuff exclusive. You should not feel like you're missing out because we got something exclusive. We've had Final Fantasy VII exclusive for over a year now. Intergrade is exclusive. Everything we do, if Sony had bought Bethesda, it would be exclusive. I do not want to hear a single person say about this because it is doing my head in. The fact that Pete Hines had to go out and apologize because it's exclusive is ridiculous. That should never happen. At the end of the day, a company makes a business decision on if it's going to succeed or not. And I said this before, that if I was running Xbox, I would lock that shit down. That would be down. And so I really am happy for them that it's on there. Now, will I be saying this when Doom and Wolfenstein are exclusive? Probably not. But with Bethesda stuff, I don't really give two shits either way, right? So I'm just happy for them to have something there that will give some competition.
Also, the point I was going to make is that all the build up to Starfield, all the stuff before Starfield was, is it coming to PlayStation? Is it an Xbox exclusive? Is it this? Like, no one's actually talking about what the game actually is. Like, it's Skyrim in space or whatever like that. We don't really know anything about the game. All we know is now it's an Xbox exclusive. It's kind of, I'm finally glad this has been laid to rest and we can actually focus on what the actual game is. Because, to be honest, all it is about the exclusives. That's all we've had to talk about for the last 6 months. It's the last year maybe. It's been a long road. We're finally getting it to the point where we can get past this part, and you guys can focus on your exclusives. Because didn't you have, was it 25 games the PlayStation are working on at the moment? I think that's what they've said.
Yeah, that's what they said. Yeah. Now, I mean, we don't know a goddamn thing. I mean, we're kind of anticipating we're going to get a conference next month. We're anticipating we'll get one in July. Fingers crossed, and then we'll hear some stuff. But we've said in the podcast quite a few times that we'd rather them stay quiet and then do what the number one press conference I'll talk about have done and announce a load of stuff that's coming out soon. And I think that's way more effective. And I'd prefer them to do that. So we know that God of War's coming. We said last episode in the podcast, and I was saying in particular that I don't think it needed to be shown when the PlayStation 5 was announced. They could have saved it for now, done a teaser now, out next year. It would have had the same impact, would have had a big deal. But they for some reason they like throwing these little studio partnerships out there at the moment. I don't know why the fuck they're doing that, because who gives a shit? I don't care what they've worked on previously. I want to see what they're doing now. And yeah, that was the only thing I found weird about the Summer Game Fest, was that kind of thing where they brought out two devs and like, oh, we're really excited to be partnered with PlayStation. So I don't give a fuck who you are. Why are you here?
Davey, were they the guys that had the t-shirt on,
Yeah,
the matching jacket, and then the logo behind them?
Yes.
They were all the same. But can you tell me the name of their studio? Because I can't
Deviation
remember
or something, isn't it?
And I'm not even playing. Oh my god. Yeah, hilarious. Whoever's doing wardrobe, right, needs to just reassess their life. Because they ain't getting
Also,
that
I was going to say, so you just mentioned all the stuff you were saying about God of War, and in a way I agree with you that you should announce stuff only like 6 months in advance. It's like, it feels like it's been the flip, because in the PS4 generation, you had 4 free press conferences with the same 4 games in it for PlayStation. They showed Spider-Man every year, Ghost of Tsushima every year, Last of Us 2 every year for a while, and then they eventually came out. Now it feels like you're all the ones who are a bit silent, because I feel like Xbox, we know what's coming this year, we know what's coming next year, we know what's coming 2023, and maybe even 2024. Whereas PlayStation, it's just Horizon, and God of War is eventually coming, hopefully next year. I mean, I'm looking forward to God of War. I'll probably buy that on my PS4 actually. That looks like a fun game. But yeah, there's not really much. I mean, that's why I like the Xbox conference, is because I have kind of a roadmap now. I know what to look forward to, and I have a list of games which I'm looking forward to. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I like Forza. I like Flight Simulator. I'm looking forward to playing Back 4 Blood and all those games, and there's a big list of games that I'm really looking forward to playing. And I don't have to pay for any of them because I've already got the subscription, so they're all in Game Pass, so I'm really excited just to have a load of games to play. So, yeah, I mean, that's why it's my number one.
Well, my number one, obviously this one we haven't heard of yet. I think it's the same for a few of us, but let's just say for me right now, obviously it's Nintendo, which, as everyone knows, it was the one I was most anticipating. But yeah, Nintendo for me was easily number one because, I mean, Kazuya, as much as I don't care about him, I don't want him in Smash, I honestly don't care, but it means now all they've got to show is the next character. Yes, I'm sure that won't be disappointing. We all know I love Smash. So it's news, so I appreciate that. The next game they showed, which I love, WarioWare. Jesus Christ, I can't believe we got another WarioWare game. This is the first WarioWare game they've shown either since Smooth Moves on the Wii or the DSi version of WarioWare. And Smooth Moves on the Wii, I remember I never owned it, but my cousin had it. And I went over her house whilst they were just there in the morning, and I popped over to visit them, and I saw they had it, and I thought, oh my god, can I play it? Is that okay? And they were like, yeah, sure. And an hour after I was playing it, I'd been playing it for an hour, and they were like, oh, we're going out now. I was like, oh, is it okay if I just stay here and just keep playing? And they were like, I mean, sure. And I stayed there for about 6 hours, and I beat WarioWare the entirety of the game that day. Just home alone in someone else's house. I love WarioWare. I play it on the GameCube every time my mate is over my house. We play it multiplayer. I love WarioWare, so I'm really, really looking forward to this new version on the Switch. Another game they showed, Mario Party Superstars. Fucking the last Mario Party game they showed, or the last Mario Party game they released, was dog shit. I'm not gonna lie to you. But they said this kind of goes back to the old boards. It's kind of an OG version of Mario Party, or they kind of want it to be anyway. Has loads of mini games from prior games. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping it's good. And if it is, I'm definitely going to get it. Love Mario Party. But for now, I'll just keep playing 4 and 5 on Dolphin. Another thing they showed, last thing they showed in conference, Breath of the Wild 2. And kind of a date. Kind of. It's a date.
Yeah, see you.
I agree with you, Spence.
Thank you, mate. It might not be a date, but it is a shot. So, we'll keep it. Breath of the Wild, as much as it's not game of the decade, in my opinion, fantastic game. It was a fantastic game. Bit dry, not a lot to do, but I'm hoping they change that for Breath of the Wild 2. I'm hoping there's a lot more story inside of it, a lot less. You can experience the story if you want. Metroid Dread. We haven't had a 2D Metroid in 19 years. I'm well looking forward to Metroid Dread. I think that's going to be a fantastic game. And the mechanics they showed off in the gameplay looked fucking awesome. That game looked sick. I actually can't wait to experience Metroid Dread. And it gives us something to do whilst we wait for Metroid Prime 4. So I'm really looking forward to that. Granted, I would have rather just seen Prime 4. But this is fine. And the last thing I want to mention. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. A collection of the Super Monkey Ball games. I love Super Monkey Ball. I've done a few speedruns of Super Monkey Ball 1. I love the game. I think it's well fun. Granted, it's a bit stupid. A lot of people kind of try it out and suck at it and quit, like they do with Returnal. So, I just love Super Monkey Ball. So all those games together, Nintendo just kind of blew me out the water. I never expected them to show anywhere near as much as they did, especially so many like throwback games like Metroid, Mario Party, WarioWare, Super Monkey Ball. They just surprised me so much. So they easily got the first place for me. I felt like they redeemed E3. All right, Phil, mate, why don't you give us your number one?
Okay. So yeah, my number one's the same. Nintendo. Watched the conference. It was actually quite a big surprise for me that this actually went in as number one because I wasn't expecting it. But that conference was jam-packed full of games. Okay. There wasn't like very many big games. There was lots of additions to games, but that conference was game after game after game. And I loved the whole click of the fingers. Cracked me up every time they did it.
It's the Switch, mate. It's the Switch noise.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I'm sick of that noise. It's every single fucking Nintendo Direct. I don't know how many you watch, Phil, but Jesus, every single one, they're like...
I watch
and
them.
it's just...
I watch them.
They did a double click on
Davey.
this, right? And it was like...
They did. They had
I
two
know.
people do the clicks. But Spence, when you do the edit, can you give me the click?
Sure, mate. Yeah, I'll give it a go.
Give it a go. There's your challenge for the edit, okay?
You'd also notice, I don't think Davey ever does it, but every single time you put a Joy-Con onto your Switch,
Oh, I
you hear
do.
that click
Cassie, my son, is addicted to the Switch. He's addicted to it. So my son, as much as I tried to get him into Sonic, right? So you can follow in my footsteps and be the god that I truly am. He's not following it. He's all about Mario. He loves Mario. He's got Mario figures, Mario bedding, everything Mario slippers. He just loves it. He really does. He just literally sits there and watches Mario 64 speedruns, and he'll just watch it. He just loves it. He's just totally enraptured by it. And so my son's always detaching the Joy-Cons and then putting them back on and hearing that noise. So that noise just reminds me of just my failures as a parent. And that's why I just don't like it.
Okay, anyway, me. So doesn't it speak volumes that the number one game we're going to talk about isn't a AAA? Because Metroid Dread, as amazing as it looks, it's not a AAA game, is it? You know, everyone's here shaking their heads. For the blind listeners, we haven't referred to you yet. Everyone's here shaking their heads.
But the reason for that is because you think about it, Metroid sells hardly anything. Metroid is sold way less than you could possibly imagine. I'll pull up the numbers now. It actually, Spence, you normally run on numbers. You do our Google search. How much has the Metroid series sold overall? This is going to surprise you, listeners, if you haven't heard this stat before.
The total sales of every Metroid game ever made is 18.147 million.
Nothing. So it's not a massive franchise. As much as the hardcore love it, it is not a massive franchise. It's not a big seller. And so you could see why they are so reluctant to put big money into it, because it just doesn't sell.
Yeah. I mean, that's when I said the conference is mainly B-tier Nintendo franchises. That's what I meant. I love Metroid, but it's a B-tier Nintendo franchise, unfortunately. I wish it was an A-tier, but unfortunately it's their lower priority, sadly.
I'm glad you're on the podcast, Lewis, because I agree with a hell of a lot of things you're saying. You know, with this Metroid Dread, as good as it looked, it wasn't a AAA title, but it is a day one for me. I'm really into this. I can imagine myself, you know, going on a long journey, train ride, you know, trip up to London, or maybe even a holiday. Who knows? Does anyone remember what a holiday actually is? Going abroad on a plane, sitting there playing your Switch. I can imagine playing Metroid Dread. But another game that stuck out to me, and I'm sure Davey's probably going to reference this because I've been doing the numbers and I think his favourite conference might be the same as mine, is WarioWare Get It Together. Oh my god. I cannot wait for that game. It's mini games, but I absolutely love that game. I love the previous Wii editions. Had so much fun in the past. Getting on the Volcas.
Actually, mate, I'll have you know, in WarioWare they're called micro games.
There we go. corrected by the best. He's editing this one, so you'll keep that in.
I will.
But I cannot wait for WarioWare again, day one, and everyone's invited. Get around mine. Let's get the vodkas in. Let's play WarioWare. It'd be a hell of a night. Talking about minigames, I really wish I had done my predictions for Nintendo now, because I think I predicted that they were going to come out with a new Mario Party. And Spencer was like, no shot. That ain't going to happen.
You're right. That is exactly what
happens?
you predicted, yeah.
New Mario Party.
That's actually so true. I did.
One.
Is it a
I
new
would've
Mario
got one
Party?
there.
I did say
It's a
that. Yeah.
remaster of the first three.
So
is it a new
annoying.
one? Technically?
Hey.
It would count.
Spencer's
Okay.
getting a
okay.
shot to give out based on a year. Right? And he said date.
I just being
And we're giving
nitpicking.
it to him. So I would have got that for Mario Party. But hey,
Yeah.
I picked Capcom. It was hopeful for me for Capcom. But the last thing I want to pull up before I hand over to you, Davey, because I know you're ready to go on this with Nintendo. I can see you. Is the Game & Watch for Zelda. I want one. I love
You love a
those
good bit
things.
of tat, don't you?
It might just be my age, but I would love one. It depends what price they come out.
See, I said the exact same thing. I said, depending on the price, I would love one of those.
I don't know what they come out. If they're coming out like 100, then no way, right?
Yeah.
If they're coming out at like 50, 60, I'm in. I
That's
would
exactly
love one
what
of
I
those,
said.
right? I think that would be, again, a fun plane trip. I don't know where I'm going on holiday these days because I've got a lot of Nintendo games. And I kind of would keep a Nintendo game to go away on holiday and play, right? They're not games that I'm going to go downstairs and play, or I'm going to sit in front of my PC. If I'm in front of my PC, I'm playing League of Legends. If I'm downstairs, I'm playing PlayStation games for you, the listener. But if I'm going away, I might have a Nintendo game. And if someone wants to buy me the Game & Watch Zelda edition for my birthday, I'd appreciate that. Anyway, Davey, what is your number one?
So it would come as no surprise to anybody that my number one is Nintendo. Now, you will not find a bigger Nintendo critic than me. I have no interest in Nintendo other than Smash generally. But it turned out they delivered a press conference that was on par to E3 2015 for Sony. So E3 2015 for Sony, for those that don't remember, is where they came out and they showed Last Guardian for the first time in like 10 years. They then showed the first gameplay footage of Horizon, showed No Man's Sky. Ooh, it turned out to be a dud, but it looked hype. And then they showed Final Fantasy VII Remake. And that was the E3 that broke the internet. And this was that same thing for Nintendo for
They
me.
also showed the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter at that E3 conference, which everyone loved. It did break the internet, to be fair, but
I was actually hyped.
it's just a shame it turned out.
Yeah,
to be
I was
a bit
hyped
rubbish.
by
But
that.
it did break the internet, which I back in you with that one.
It did. It was a big press conference. And so I never thought, right? I never thought in a million years that Nintendo would actually get what I want. I'm sick of Pokemon. I'm fucking sick of Pokemon, right? I do not give a shit about it at all. And so to have no Pokemon there was so nice for me. So bringing on to why Nintendo was successful. So Nintendo was successful for all the same reasons that you both already said, Spence and Phil. Metroid Dread blew my absolute fucking mind. I was so shocked to see it. It was honestly amazing. Metroidvanias are like my favorite genre. And so to see Metroid come back and actually do it again, and especially with the same counter mechanic that they had in the last kind of remaster they did, I think it was
Samus
Other M,
Returns.
which wasn't very good. That's the one, Samus Returns, yeah. And see that and see that come back, I was really hyped by that. I was super, super, super hyped by WarioWare. I mean, WarioWare, Phil kind of went on to it, but WarioWare was like my entire late teens, early 20s was WarioWare. Every single weekend, well, every single Thursday to Saturday night was WarioWare and drinking vodka. And that was all we did for 4 years. And it was just brilliant. And to see that come back is just a massive deal for me. And it's one of those things that, sure, people buy Nintendo for Animal Crossing and they buy it for Pokemon and everything else. For me, I buy it for Smash, But before, I bought my Wii for Zelda. I bought it for WarioWare. I bought it for all the games. Metroid. I bought them for all the games that were shown here. So this conference spoke to me on every single level. And I was really blown away by it. And I'd never anticipated that from anyone, especially Nintendo. They've actually got purchases out of me this year, which they haven't had for the last 3 years. So I'm over the moon with it.
You also bought a title called Red Steel, which I was very hopeful
Red
for.
Steel, what a game. That and WarioWare was all we played. Kill Dino Boy. And oh my god, what a game. What a multiplayer LAN experience. I mean, Christ. Is there anything... I mean, we were talking last episode about Time Splitters and how we want Time Splitters to come back and how, thank God, it's being developed and stuff. Red Steel. What are they doing with Red Steel? What a license. Bring it back. You got little speakers in every single handset these days. Easy to do. Easy. Just re-release it. Perfect game. But yeah, so that is my number one conference. So, it's time for us to collate our scores. Listener, you won't know this has happened, and this is the first episode that Spencer is editing. So hopefully, after this sentence finishes, we'll be back with our combined list. So moving on to our top 5 games of the show. Lewis, why don't you kick us off with
My
your
number
number
5 is probably not going to be on any of your lists. It is Forza Horizon 5. The game looks absolutely stunning. I know it's just a visual showcase for the Xbox. They're showing like cactuses and all this is like super high quality and rocks. I'm like, why are you making super realistic looking rocks? What's the point of this? And then a car goes past it at like 200 miles an hour. You're never going to park up and look at that rock, but it's there. And then they have they said they recorded 400 hours of 4K Mexican skies for the Skybox. I'm like, why? You're insane. I mean, the game just looks phenomenal, but just insane at the same time. It's probably the prettiest game I've maybe ever seen. So, I mean, it's up there. And I like racing as well. It's just fun. It's just a fun game.
What I really want to see now is like Forza is the premier racing game. It really is. And I'm really interested to see kind of if Gran Turismo can overtake it this year, because I don't think they can. Because Forza just looks exceptional. And I know if I was into racing games, the home for that at the moment is Xbox. It really is. Like, Gran Turismo just isn't a contender, so I really hope that when they next show that game that it just wows people, because at the moment, it's a second-rate game. And Forza just looked exceptional. So for me, like, not being into racing games is not for me, but I can definitely see the appeal.
With Forza Horizon, it's more of an
Definitely.
arcadey racer. So we got Forza Motorsport 8, which is coming up probably next year, which is more like GT. But I don't think PlayStation has any kind of like arcadey open world racing games like that, which is a shame.
No, it used to be kind of like relegated to like the Burnouts or like Motorstorm.
Love Motorstorm.
Motorstorm would probably be the similar contender, but
It's such a good game.
yeah, Motorstorm's class. But it's not been there for a long time now, so yeah, there's nothing really.
My favorite racer on PlayStation, I haven't played it since the PSP, but it was my favorite racer on PlayStation. It was Ridge Racer. I used to fucking love Ridge Racer, and I remember I was in the game shop, I was in game, and when you opened Ridge Racer on the PSP, there was a little mini game where you had a 2D car that drove around, and some guy tried out Ridge Racer on the PSP and thought that was the whole game, and he ended up buying Ridge Racer that day, and I was like, fam, you just hit...
Can you imagine how
hit
gutted you'd
start.
be? Like, actually, when you press start... No, but can you imagine how
was
gutted you'd be
buzzing.
when you realise, you press start, you're like, oh no. For like the inverse reason.
No, he probably went home, pressed start, and thought, I got 2 games. Oh, they somehow
demo,
accidentally put
like a
another
demo
game in
thing.
this.
Like back on the PS1, where you're like,
Yeah, like a demo.
this demo's
disc.
a full game. I remember saying to my dad, like with Crash Bandicoot 1, I was like, it's a full game, Dad. And he's like, it's a level, son. It's a full game. And I complete the level, and I'd be like, oh.
So for me, I've never been a massive fan of racing games, but the racing games I've ended up buying, generally, it's all about the soundtrack. Motorstorm. What a soundtrack. Absolutely love that Pendulum song. Every time I hear it, it just reminds me of that game.
I mean,
Something
obviously I
like
don't know
that.
the
Something
soundtrack
like
for
that, yeah.
Forza Horizon 5 yet, but they usually do have good songs on the soundtrack. As far as I'm aware, they have like radio stations, kind of like GTA. So, I mean, I hope it's got some good songs on there. If it doesn't, that's going to be a bit disappointing. What it reminds me the most of is Test Drive. It's very similar to Forza Horizon. It's like open world racing game. But yeah, Forza Horizon 4 did very well on Game Pass, and it was all based in Britain. And this one looks even better, and it's based in Mexico, which is very odd, but it looks cool. Yeah, it's just a pretty racing game, and I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. So that's my number 5.
My number 5 is Mario Party Superstars. And the reason for that, it looked phenomenal. It looked really fun. I adore Mario Party games. I think they're class for pre-drinks before a night out. I think they're perfect. But the last Mario Party game was shit. So as much as I have really high hopes for this next one, I'm hoping it doesn't disappoint. On the off chance it does, that's why it's ranked so low on my number 5. Otherwise, it might be bumped up a bit higher. Just because the last one was severely disappointing.
So my number 5, I mentioned this game earlier, and I didn't see anyone raise an eyebrow, not even Lewis. And this is Atomic Heart. This was featured at the Xbox E3 presentation. So we got to see a new trailer from the developer Mindfish. This is the open-world shooter that places you in the shoes of a KGB agent assigned to investigate a catastrophic event in a science facility. Now guys, don't all great games start in a failed lab experiment? There's so many games that I could list off, if I was allowed to say them, that started with a failed experiment or something.
I can only think of one that I can actually name, and that's Half-Life. Apart from that, it's all games that I just can't mention, but great games nonetheless. I think it's time for me to actually dish a shot out, because we haven't done one yet. So, Phil, why don't you do a shot just because I want to give you a shot?
So this is your
my
one and only shot. So Spencer's still got 2 in the barrel, and you're giving me your shot. Okay. Can I just finish my sentence? Because I was just getting onto this amazing game that I think a lot of people probably missed. So let me finish off with this, and I'll take my shot afterwards. So it's funny that you mentioned Half-Life with the failed lab experiment, because watching this intro to this game, this new trailer that we got at the E3 Xbox presentation, I got slight Portal vibes from watching it, with a crossover to Fallout. So this is what piqued my interest. This game's coming out to Xbox, but I'll probably end up playing it on PC later in the year.
I mean, I thought it looked like a really fun game, but I didn't really know what it was. I mean, to me, it looked like Hideo Kojima would even be confused by this game, to be honest. It looked very, very confusing. I was like, what the hell is going on?
Class.
Again, I'm quite glad you made that link, because it's definitely my type of game, isn't it? You've mentioned Half-Life and Hideo Kojima, in this same conversation, and you didn't really pick out this game, so this is definitely a me game, isn't it? So that's my number 5 that sort of piqued my interest. We'll see where it goes. I'm not saying it's a must-buy, but definitely the Portal vibes had me go in there. So we'll see where it goes. I'll keep an eye on it.
So moving on to my number 5. So my number 5 is actually Stalker 2. So Stalker 2 looked like one of those games that I thought, do you know what? I'm really impressed by this. I thought the presentation for it actually was really bad, if I'm honest with you. The way they structured it around a campfire, which didn't work for me at all, but what they showed from the game looked what I'd class as next gen. It looked really impressive. And so I was like, oh my God, this is the first thing that Xbox have brought out that looks really, really good. And then I learned it's out 3 months after. So there's no reason for me to buy an Xbox, but it does mean I will be picking it up day one on PlayStation. Now, I haven't played the original Stalker, but Stalker 2 just looked really, really fun. It actually reminded me a lot of like Metro Exodus.
it's got a lot of the same developers from the Metro team have moved over to Stalker 2, so that's probably why. There's a lot of, there was licensing issues with the original Stalker series, and then a lot of people from that series went over to Metro, and now a lot of people from the Metro series have gone back to Stalker. So that's why there's a lot of crossover between the two. But yeah, it looks awesome.
And I suppose also it's the fact it's set in Russia as well, isn't it? It's like a Russian game, just like Metro is. So it's very similar kind of vibes anyway, I suppose, regardless of the fact that, that it's a separate entity itself. But yeah, so that's my number 5. So Lewis, back to you.
Yeah, I did. Okay, so my number 4 is Elden effing Ring. Like, come on now, that game looks amazing. I mean, it's Breath of the Wild meets Dark Souls. I mean, what's not to love about that? It's got George R.R. Martin, who wrote Game of Thrones. It looks incredible. I mean, yeah, I just want it. I just want the game. Like, the trailer was the best thing in the Games Fest kickoff show by far, and it blew up the internet for like the evening it was there. I've been waiting for it for a while, and we finally got it, so I just can't wait. And it's coming next year, early next year, and I can't wait. Elden Ring. I mean, I think we discussed it quite a bit before, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but yeah, Elden effing Ring. That's my number 4. What's your number 4, Spencer?
Yeah, actually, hold on. Spencer, before it goes to you, sorry to cut you off, Lewis. Take your shot, Phil.
So, Davey, can you remind me and the listeners why I'm taking this shot?
So it's because I got a prediction right on my Xbox prediction. So I predicted the Halo reveal. Obvious as it was. It still earns me a shot. So Phil's drinking that shot. He's enjoying that. He's got a Jaeger bomb, a classic for the PlayStation podcast. And he has done it. In PS We Trust, he's done it. He's got that little sigh where he thinks, oh, fuck my life. But he's done it. Well done. And of course, this isn't like the button. It's a totally different thing. So there's nothing. Actually, boys, this is something I want to say. Before I put in, right, and said about the shot, I was so close to mentioning the game that can't be mentioned. Just because, obviously, that's normally how it works. But I'm so glad it didn't. So sorry, Spence. On to you. What is your 4th game?
Okay, hang on. Before I go on to it, can I say I can't believe you gave that shot to Phil?
Of course it's going to Phil.
I cannot believe it, because I've got 2 shots. I've got 2 shots to dish out. I thought you'd give yours to me, and I'd give mine to you boys.
You're so vulnerable now, Davey.
Lewis is here too.
Lewis is here too. Especially because of...
Yeah, of course you are.
It's true.
Especially because of the shit you've been giving
I haven't
Spencer
given him any
night.
shit.
And disagreeing with him.
My honesty.
I'm going to offer,
Terrible.
because of how long this topic's going, I'm going to offer to edit the first half of this whole entire podcast. So, first you're doing the second
half, because this is
I'm doing
the second half.
Yeah, and I'll do, because this will be
E3.
a normal length episode of the podcast in just this topic. So I'll edit the first part of this topic, of this whole podcast, for you. If you sting me,
you'd have to.
It's off the table.
Spence, you haven't heard my offering yet.
Yeah, it is.
You haven't heard my offering yet, Spence.
No, it ain't. Yeah.
For the listeners who don't know, he's done a blowy. All right, he said he's going to give him a blowy. All right, for the blind listeners, a blowy, and he looked like he was grabbing the nuts as well. So it's a full blowy.
I'd rather take
That's
the
what
shot,
you
thanks.
interpreted from my mime.
Wait, hold on. Wait.
It's a double shot with Spence. We all know this.
It's a double. It's a double. Phil, mate, would you lick the balls?
You got to work the shaft as well as lick the balls, Spence. Come on.
I thought this was
I'm not an
PG.
amateur.
Oh,
I tell you what, if this was me editing this like it normally is, listener, I'm not about ball play. All right, ball play's off the table for me. So this would be, he'd be getting a shot right now, and it wouldn't be, what the kind of shot they'd be looking for from ball play. It would be a Jaeger shot, and no, ball play's off the table for me. Not interested in the balls. Leave them alone. All right, anyone with taste.
It's all for me, mate.
No,
all for me.
Choice. Right into the podcast. pswetrust@gmail.com. Do you enjoy your balls being touched?
If it's no, I want to know
I'm
why.
leaving that in
very
so hard.
curious.
I'm leaving that in.
Talking of balls, Spencer, what's your number 4?
Right, well, funnily enough, it's funny you mentioned balls, mate. My number 4,
Ooh.
surprising probably, is Metroid Dread, which, as we know, Samus Aran, what did she turn into?
What a
Wow.
transition.
little ball,
Oh my
didn't
god,
she?
you couldn't write it. You couldn't write it.
Truly couldn't. But Metroid Dread, I feel like it would be higher on my list, but I'm looking at my top 3 games right now. It literally just can't. It cannot be higher. The games above it, I'm looking forward to so fucking much. And Metroid Dread, I'm really looking forward to it. But it can't top the games above it. Metroid Dread looks fantastic. It's, other than Smash, I think it's going to be a reason to touch my Nintendo Switch again. Because other than Smash, I do not use it. Everyone keeps saying, oh my god, Switch Pro is going to happen. Well, they didn't show a Switch Pro. I don't give a flying fuck about a Switch Pro because Smash Ultimate runs on my Switch. Why would I buy a Switch Pro if Smash Ultimate runs on my Switch? I don't care. So any game that's going to run on my Switch, which is Metroid Dread, I'll play it, and I will end up using my console again. Granted, I can't really earn trophies or achievements on Metroid Dread on my Switch, but that's what you pay to play a great game. So I'll do it. Metroid Dread, looking forward to it. My number 4. Phil, speaking of balls, what's your number 4?
Well, funny you should say that. My number 4 is Party Animals. This was featured in the Xbox E3 presentation. For those who don't know, Party Animals is a multiplayer, chaotic brawler with a loving vibe. You take control of your favourite animal plushie and wreak havoc on your friends. I can already see Davey dressed in your bunny suit from the stag do as I push you off a plane, or into the water as I look down on you from the submarine. For me, this is the next Among Us. This is the next Fall Guys game to come out, and actually looks like loads of fun.
Isn't it just
Coming
the
out
rip-off
next year.
of Gang Beasts? Like, is just Gang Beasts with furry animals?
I will say, I'll butt in there, it is literally exactly Gang Beasts, and it's been on Steam for about 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, we're
Sorry,
talking
Phil.
about Xbox here, but it looks hilarious.
Talking about Xbox. It looks great. It looks great. It is. I'm sure it's a brilliant game, and it's got graphically speaking, it's a lot higher level than Gang Beasts, and it's got item play which doesn't exist in Gang Beasts. But fundamentally speaking, physics wise, and the way the game works, it's the same as Gang Beasts, but they've just added on to it, which I think is a good move because Gang Beasts is kind of the only game of its genre. So I would very much look forward to Party Animals as well.
But we know the way it works with Among Us. It came out on the PC, then it started going to console, and now it's on everything, right? It's the same way. I can see the same thing happening with Party Animals. And for me, that was quite a big announcement for it to come to console. We should do an In PS We Trust Let's Play on Party Animals in the future. We'll stream some and see what the viewers think of the game. Anyway, Davey, you've just come back. Been caught a bit short there. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought it was a great looking game. To get into my top 4 out of all the games that have been showed so far is a big honour. And that is my number 4. I'm really excited for it. Can't wait. Day 1 purchase, I've already said. Super hyped for it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good. I mean, we kind of covered it previously with the Square Enix stuff. So I mean, yeah, I mean, no Dave Bautista, so it goes a little bit lower, but it's still good.
As we said, Lady Dimitrescu is gone. It's time for the rise of Gamora. I need someone else to pine after. And until I get Final Fantasy VII Remake 2, and I get Tifa to come back into my life and grace me, it's time for Gamora to come in and fill that void. Touch those balls.
Who's Lady Dimitrescu?
She's from a game that we just can't mention. It's not going to happen yet,
Fair
Spence.
enough.
It's not going to happen yet. Stop trying to push it, mate.
Mate, I'm 8 bevs deep. I could say
I'm
it
on the
any
shorts
minute.
now. I'm on the shorts now. Okay? It's absolutely fine. You could say it now, could you? Okay.
You need to catch Davey up with a couple of those shots, Spence, I feel. Then you might be able to trick him into saying it.
I think it's time. I think it's time for Lewis. What's your number 3? What's your number 3 game?
Well, this one's going to probably shock people because I just said the first one was my game of the decade, But my number 3 is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. There wasn't... I really enjoyed what I saw. It just wasn't enough of it. We waited 2 years for more gameplay, and it was literally a minute trailer. There was no date, and they still haven't given it an official name. It's still the official sequel to Breath of the Wild.
There was a date. Thank you very much. There was
He's
a year.
looking mega worried.
It counts as
He's
a date.
So worried.
It counts as a date. Thank you.
They gave it a year, and they haven't given it an official name. It just says Breath of the Wild sequel, which I'm a bit annoyed they still haven't given it a name. But it still looks amazing. I mean, as I said, the first one is one of my favourite games ever, and I cannot wait to play more of it, but I just didn't show enough of it for me. I just wish they showed more, and that's why it's my number 3. But next year it'll probably be higher. It'll probably be my number 1 next year when they actually show a lot of it. Davey?
Just got to jump in and just say Breath of the Wild does not feature in my list at all. No way.
Nor
Do you
mine.
mean-
Oh,
Nor
Do
mine.
you mean Breath of the Wild 2?
yeah. Breath of the Wild 2 doesn't feature in my list at all. And nor yours, Spence. That's surprising because I know you enjoy this game more than I do. I got real problems with Breath of the Wild.
I got problems with Breath of the Wild.
I thought people would be pitchforks for me for saying they was in my number 3. I thought everyone
No.
would have it at number 1 and 2. Well, okay, fair enough.
No, I honestly think that the original's way overrated. I really do. I think it's so overrated, personally. Phil, I know you've got something to say on this.
So I was just going to say, I can not confirm that it's in my list at all.
What does that mean?
Shut up then. Shut up then. What do
Yeah,
you mean?
why are you even taking up time?
What do you mean?
Well, it's a cryptic hint that it's actually not in my list.
Oh.
It's not on your list.
It's not on my list at all.
You're a waste
So
of time.
I guess the last time we're going to be mentioning Breath of the Wild 2 in this conversation. So is there anything?
Yeah, this is probably worth going off on then. This is probably worth going off.
I think, as much as they didn't show much, they showed a good bit in the fact that they showed off a few of the new powers you get, the new abilities, where they showed off one where it's kind of similar to, well, I can't remember his name, but it's Falco. You know who I mean. What's his name?
No,
No,
Winter
Falco.
Soldier.
Falco.
No. I know who you mean. The guy who looks
Falco
like
from
Falco.
Smash, the
yeah,
beard.
the guy.
Yeah, he looks like Falco.
He's Falco. Yeah, he is Falco.
He had an ability where you could basically soar high into the air and you could glide. It was an ability that seemed similar to that, where you could fly up and then drill through the floor and kind of climb above it. That seemed like a really cool ability. And just the fact that they're showing off stuff like that, it's just really cool because it's showing us what the game includes, but not showing any of the story, not trying to spoil anything. So I really appreciate that.
I got one thing I'm worried about, actually, is where they showed Link kind of flying through the clouds and stuff, it reminded me too much of Skyward Sword. Kind of the way you fly down, and that has me worried. Because that game, right, I enjoyed that game at the time, but when I saw that game got reviewed a 10 from IGN, I was absolutely awestruck. Because I was like, there is no way this game's a 10. It's so repetitive. It's insane.
You know, it's funny that game actually got showed at Nintendo and is coming out next month, the HD remake, and not one of us has
No,
mentioned
it's
it.
because it's
It's
not
not
very
one of
good.
us.
It's the worst 3D Zelda game, and I don't care what people say. Come at me. I don't care. It's the worst
You're
3D Zelda game.
you're 100% right.
You're right.
100%
You're
right.
right.
Yeah, way worse than Twilight Princess. Way worse than Ocarina. Oh my god, Ocarina is so much better than it.
Yeah.
Also, if you didn't... I said the Winter Soldier because he has a robot arm. I don't know if you picked up on that. Like, Link's arm's been removed and he has a robot arm now. So he looks like the Winter Soldier from Marvel. So
Isn't it just like a tattoo? It looks like a tattoo to me.
I think he loses
how
his
the arm
arm.
looks.
Ganon pulls his arm off with his like Calamity Ganon, which is like the red arm things pull his arm
Right.
off.
Why didn't
Yeah.
Link just tell Ganon to get a job? Like, Ganon's coming back all the time, and if this is the same Link, right, he's coming back like every 5 years. Like, Link's grown his hair out, but it's the same Link, right? So, just fucking get a job, Ganon. Stop it.
I'm not gonna lie to you boys. I didn't even notice that. I didn't notice it.
What?
Didn't notice it at all. Honestly, didn't. I just watched. You said it. I thought, what the fuck? I've just gone to my other monitor. I've just skimmed through the trailer again. I like. Oh my god! I can't even see that. Yeah, it's like
Tattoo thing, isn't
you know
it?
how the Guardians.
No, it's
It's not a tattoo. It's definitely not
It's
a
instead
tattoo.
of the tablet you have
you know
on.
how those like
the Sheikah Slate.
yeah, you know how the Sheikah Slate kind of thing. You know how the Guardians that kind of shoot you with lasers. those are kind of constructed is kind of similar to that. So it's definitely not a tattoo. It's kind of like a weird Sheikah technology on 100%. But I didn't even notice that. That's insane.
When there was a news article come out saying they couldn't name the new Zelda game because it would spoil it. So I just said it was called Legend of Zelda: The Winter Soldier. So that was what I was going to go with. So
I think that's a great name for it, to be honest.
yeah.
I think that's a great name. I think that's officially the name that we'll name this podcast. We'll.
I think they might get sued.
Nah, it'd be fine. It'd be fine.
bit.
It'd be fine. Nintendo can take it on. They're a pretty big company.
I am still shocked it's none of your top 5, but you know, maybe they'll show
Not
more
enough
next
shown.
year. Yeah.
Not enough shown for me to make it into my top 5. And to be honest, I don't rate Breath of the Wild as even one of the best Zeldas. I think it's a really subpar Zelda, in my opinion. I think it's the same way I kind of view the game that can't be named, 4, in that it's got nothing in connection to Zelda at all. It's just Zelda in name only. There's no dungeons. There's nothing. It's literally just spin-off series with really great powers that you can use in the exterior world, sorry. But there's nothing to actually explore because it's a dead world. And I think it's just a subpar game. I really do. I don't think it's great. I think it's good. I think it's a good game. I reckon it's 7.5 out of 10. I don't reckon it's great at all. I really don't.
I completely agree. I agree with every single point you just said.
Wow. Well, okay. Well, it's one of my favorite games ever, but I agree to disagree.
It's all right, mate.
But
It's all
also
right.
the game
that's the way it goes.
the game that cannot be named, number 4, you don't rate that very high, even though that's probably my favorite in that series, personally.
None of us do.
No,
None of us.
you're completely outclassed here. I got little plug on my YouTube. I got a tier list video of the mainline series that just went up, and spoiler alert, it's in B.
Whoa.
At the bottom of B. It's really low. And it's because it's not a true. Oh my god, I'm so close to saying it. Oh my god, you have no idea. It's not a true game of the game that can't be named. it's just not. It's just not. And it's just not.
Voldemort.
It's
not a true Voldemort.
It's not a true Voldemort. Let's move it on. Spence, it's your number 3.
My number 3 is Death Stranding, Director's Cut. And that's obviously, I haven't played the original. This is the original, but just remade for PS5, so it's going to be 4K, probably 60, ray tracing, all that. I'm sure it's going to be stunning, extra content. I feel like, as much as I felt I missed out on not playing Death Stranding originally, now that this has been announced, I'm quite grateful that I didn't play it immediately. Because now I get to experience it as a new game on the PS5. So I'm quite happy. And granted, I'm not a big fan that they've done this, because they did the same thing with Man-Eater and Devil May Cry 5. And a lot of other games, like God of War and Last of Us 2, they've kind of just game boosted them. And I thought they would have done the same thing with Death Stranding. But considering I haven't played this game, it coming to PS5 is actually a blessing for me. So that's why this is my number 3.
You're not alone, though. This game didn't sell massively, especially with the PlayStation audience. And so if they can give it another boost in the arm and get it into more players' hands, and then for the people that are hardcore on it, like me and Phil, I'll double dip. It's good enough for me to double dip. Honestly, it really is. I'm quite happy to give them my money again, especially if it's like, 30 or 40 quid as opposed to 60. I'm more than happy to do that.
I'm basically when the PS5, when I eventually get a PS5, when they eventually restock them, I will be getting Death Stranding for PS5 as well, because I haven't played it either. But it does look interesting. I'm hoping the Metal Gear Solid stuff is actually in there, not just him being Kojima just trolling us. But hey, we will see. Hopefully there's some kind of Metal Gear nod in there. I hope.
I don't want it in there. I really don't. I just want to have a couple more landscapes to walk over.
So my number 3 is the official trailer for Sifu. Of course, we've seen this game in the past, but this is an updated look at the game. We got to witness a nightclub scene where our player demonstrates fluid movement, taking down enemies and improvised weapons, and using the environment to combat enemies. This game has an interesting concept. as seen in the game's announcement trailer, where the protagonist ages with every defeat. This suggests that potentially this is going to be like a roguelike game, where every time you play through the level, if you fail, you age. If you don't, you'll stay at the same age. There's no date for Sifu yet, but it is coming to PS4, PS5, and PC very soon.
Well said, mate. Well said. Yeah, it's one of those games that I'm interested in, but I think I'll need to see reviews before I pick it up, you know? Just one of those games that I'm like, I kind of want to check out, but I don't know if I would want to buy it day one, you know?
All I want to know about this game is just how does it control? Because the combat in this game seems mental to me. The amount of inputs you'd surely have to do to do some of these combos. It's like you're playing Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. It seems insane to me about how you actually control this game.
Yeah, you're right. It looks like a fighting game, but obviously there's more movement involved because it's 3D. But I'm really excited about it. You know, we've mentioned it on previous podcasts, and this is just an updated trailer on the game. And yeah, I got really hype about it. It looks incredible. Davey, what is your number 3?
So my number 3, I'm not going to stay on it too long, is Life is Strange True Colors. So Life is Strange True Colors is just one of those games that I'm just super excited by. I've said before, I'm a massive Life is Strange fan. So seeing the new gameplay of this and seeing the new powers with empathy being the biggest power, I just thought they did it in a really revolutionary way, and I'm super, super in on it. And that's all I got to say about it.
I've never played Life is Strange. I was just curious, do you think this is a good jumping off point for new players, or do you think they should play the original ones first?
Well, they're all separate kind of entries. So Life is Strange 1 doesn't link to Life is Strange 2 in pretty much any way. The only ones that do link are Life is Strange 1 and Life is Strange Before the Storm, and they link together. But apart from that, you can just jump in at any point. It's kind of like a series name rather than a character-driven experience. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So Lewis, what is your number 2?
Well, this has been covered earlier, and I don't think Davey's going to like this one at all. It's Halo Infinite, my number 2. I'm extremely excited to play the multiplayer. And yes, you might be going, you're only saying that because you're an Xbox fanboy, but I'm an Xbox fanboy because of this game, or because of this series. So yeah, I mean, I love Halo, and the multiplayer looked exactly what I wanted it to be. When I watched the developer multiplayer, they basically said everything I wanted to hear about the multiplayer, and it sounded like essentially they took my ideas out of my head and go, oh yeah, right, we'll do that for the multiplayer. It looks, hopefully, looks like the game I want it to be. Cross fingers, so I'm very excited for it, and that's my number 2. We've already discussed the controversies and all that with Halo, so I won't go into too much more detail, but I'm just very excited for it. And that's my number 2. What is your number 2, Spence?
So my number 2 shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone because I love this game. It's WarioWare. WarioWare can't fucking wait. The amount, to be fair, honestly, COVID's happening, we're not going out too often. I think I'm just going to end up playing WarioWare and drinking on my own. That's the kind of game it can be. If I fuck up a mini game or a micro game as they're called, I'll have a drink. And I'll do that to myself, and that will make the next micro game so much harder. It will be fantastic fun.
Sounds like the complete opposite to our recent sponsor in the AA for the Alcoholics Anonymous. So it sounds like the kind of problem that you don't want to have, right? You're going to obviously fuck up these mini games a lot, right? So, as you always do with WarioWare, not just you, but everyone, right? Speaking about the collective you don't want to have a game that you've just got to drink constantly. It'd be like having the button that can't be pressed all the time in your life. You just can't have that.
I mean, 2 points to argue that. Drinking games are made so you have to drink. And the other point, I'd make a terrible pair of glasses, mate, because I'm cracked. I'm sick. I will not lose these micro games. I'm busted. I beat WarioWare Smooth Moves in like 6 hours. It probably wasn't even 6 hours. It's probably a lot shorter. But I was in a home alone. I just beat the game in one sitting.
Guinness World Record Smooth Moves holder, right here, Spencer.
In it, I'll do the same. I will do completely the same with WarioWare. Let's Get It Together on my own, drinking my whiskey, and I will adore it. Fantastic game. And to be fair, even after that, we're going to be going out on nights out. We're going to be playing WarioWare. Let's not be stupid. We're going to love it. So that's why WarioWare is my number 2. Phil, mate, change my mind. What's your number 2?
So my number 2, it's a game, yes, we've seen before, and yes, I've mentioned before in this very podcast. It's Back for Blood. So this was featured at the Xbox E3 presentation. For those who don't know, this is the zombie co-op shooter from Turtle Rock and Warner Brothers. I feel like we've seen a lot of this game because of the delays. We've seen so much of it, right? We've seen new characters, we've seen new enemy types, we've seen all the maps now. I'm not sure there's going to be a lot left by the time I actually get the game. This is coming out October 12th. PS5, PS4, Xbox S, Xbox X, Xbox One, and PC. So it's coming out everywhere. I'm really excited for this game. We've mentioned it so many times. But yes, I don't feel like there's any new stuff to see here. I know you boys were excited about the game, same as me. And we'll probably play it together.
Do you know if there's crossplay for this game? Because I would love to play with you guys, but it's not seeming likely when I'm on Xbox. So
I wouldn't be surprised if there's not crossplay, to be honest, because like that's the way the industry is moving at the moment. Everything's all about crossplay, so I wouldn't be surprised if like give it 2 months after launch or something that they just make it crossplay. I can see it.
I absolutely adore Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, so I'm also looking forward to this. It should be a really fun game, so yeah.
Davey, what is your number 2?
So, my number 2 is Elden Ring. So, Elden Ring's just one of those games that we've discussed this loads of times, and Elden Ring is just like... I just love Souls games. I just absolutely adore them, since Bloodborne all the way through. That was my first one that kind of got me into the series, as you listeners know, and I just can't wait for it. And so I was mega surprised to see it there, gutted to see it there at the Summer Games Summer Games Fest. Well, I got Game Pass in my head. And yeah, I'm just mega hyped for it. I just can't wait to see more, especially that open world just looks really interesting to me. So yeah, I'm on board day one, can't wait.
It's all that subliminal messaging that Potato Chief is putting into this podcast about
Game Pass.
Yeah,
he keeps mouthing it. For the blind listeners, he keeps mouthing it into the camera, and I'm starting to pick up on it now. So Game Pass, PlayStation, day one, Game Pass.
Davey, mate, you said Game Pass, mate. I can't ignore that. You gotta go get your shot.
You're punishing me for saying Game Pass.
I can't ignore that, mate.
I thought we were bros, man. All right.
We're bros, yeah. So you gotta get a drink.
I'm pretty bevved, if you can't tell, audience.
You ain't as bevved as me.
I was going to say we need to invoke it at some stage that if someone says Game Pass,
yeah, that's my issue.
Word on this show.
I like Game Pass. I think it's a good feature. Right, chin chin, everyone.
Innit? Chin chin. I actually really like Game Pass as well. To be fair, I actually love Game Pass.
Moving on. So that is my number 2. So bring us home, Lewis. What is your number 1?
I have a feeling this might be some other people's number 1s as well. I mean, I'm hoping. My number 1 is Metroid 5, aka Metroid Dread, because damn, that looks incredible. I need it right now. Just give it to me, Nintendo. I've been waiting for 19 bloody years. Give me the bloody game. I need it in my life. It looks so good.
Totally agree with you. My number 1 as well. Literally cannot wait to dive into Metroid Dread. I'm so excited by it. Love it. Cannot wait.
So excited for it. It's been, as I said, 19 years since they announced, or since they started working on it, and it's only just coming out now. It's ridiculous. I need this game like right now. As I said previously, I'm looking forward to this than Metroid Prime 4. Like, it's continuing the storyline. It's everything I want from a Metroid game. I love Metroidvanias. I'm just very excited for it. I just need it. I've already pre-ordered it on my Switch. If I don't need to, I've already pre-ordered it. I'm just ready for it. Yeah, the number one game without a shadow of a doubt, and the biggest surprise of E3 as well. Because as much as I loved a lot of the stuff at the Xbox conference, I knew it was coming because I listened to all the Xbox podcasts. I had no clue we were going to see Metroid Dread. If you said we're going to see Metroid Dread before the conference, I would have laughed in your face. It's crazy.
There's a saying around my parts, right? I was frothing at the gash for this. I literally could not believe that this happened. I was literally popping off seeing this. I could not believe it. So this was revolutionary to me. This was the same feeling I had when I saw The Last of Us 2. Same feeling I had when I saw Final Fantasy VII Remake. I just loved it. I just thought, oh my God, this is happening. And yeah, day one for me. I'm going to fire the Switch up, actually charge my Wii U my Wii U. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, that's a swear word in this podcast. I'm going to charge my Switch Pro Controller. First time it's been used since I played the last Zelda, which was the remake. I can't remember what it's called now.
Link's Awakening.
That's it, Link's Awakening. So yeah, it's not been used since then. I can't wait. I literally can't wait. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, and if you want to see my reactions to it, you can check Potato Chief on YouTube and see my entire reactions to Metroid Dread. So yeah, there's that as well. You can see my uncut reactions of me losing my shit. I mean, that's my saying for my... I don't say frothing at the gash, I say I lose my shit. So, one of those things.
It's a new one to add into your vocabulary. I mean, it's really effective to show just how much you're frothing at the gash.
I think if I said that, if I said people could watch me frothing at the gash, I don't think they'd tune in. I'm just going to put that out there.
I'd tune in day one.
I'd subscribe, mate. I'd subscribe.
Definitely.
I don't know what you mean. I can't believe frothing at the gash has finally been said on the podcast.
19 episodes in, here it is, frothing at the gash.
No, I'm just waiting for Nosh.
Yeah, wait for episode 20. Episode 20. Big quiz, episode 20. Spence, so what is your number one?
Well, my number one shouldn't really come as a surprise to most. It's Elden Ring. Obviously, we know, similar to Davey, Bloodborne was my first entry, but since then I have adored the Souls series. I've played all of them. I didn't finish Souls 1. I still need to do that on my PC. I was playing it before Demon Souls Remake came out because I wanted to, but I didn't end up actually finishing it in time. So I played Demon Souls instead on day one because why would I fucking wait? That's insane. That game is stunning. And I will say, Elden Ring, as much as it doesn't look as impressive, graphically speaking, as Demon Souls does, it does still look phenomenal. The gameplay looks fantastic. The entire game just looks awesome. And I think the only issue I have with it is I think it was shown to be PS4 as well, which is just a letdown. But
I was going to confirm it is in Xbox One and PS4 as well. Yeah, that has been confirmed.
Yeah. So as much as that does disappoint me, I still know the game will be fantastic, and I will absolutely adore the living fuck out of it. If the combat's the same, the role mechanics the same, the way you kind of develop your character throughout the playthrough is the same, I don't care if the game's open world or less impressive graphically speaking, I will adore it. So that's my number one, Elden Ring. Phil, mate, what is your number one?
I don't think it comes as any surprise that my number one, the thing that I was most hype about watching, even though it is DLC, was Death Stranding, the director's cut.
Wow. I'm really surprised by that. Yeah, I'm really surprised. Especially, like, Phil's so critical when it's like a remake or it's like a reimagining. He doesn't class Demon Souls as his own game. He's like, it's a remake. Doesn't class RE2 as his own game. It's a remake. Doesn't get included in his top 10. I'm really surprised this is included so high.
Do you just love Death Stranding that much?
I think this just goes to show how much appreciation I have for a well-made, different game. Because that's what Death Stranding was. When it came out in 2019, it was just so different to everything else, and I just fell in love with it. And I've always wanted more. So I've been looking forward to this since completing the game. I kind of feel like any announcement with Death Stranding, I would just eat it up, right? I've just wanted something more from it since getting the platinum, right? I'm not someone to platinum a game. For all the listeners of the podcast, they know me. I don't platinum games, but I platinum this. I absolutely love Death Stranding. It is in my top 5 games of all time across any platform, and I just wanted more. And this is what happened at the Summer Games Fest. The studio announced that we're getting an extended and enhanced version of Death Stranding. We got treated to a lengthy teaser showing the game's hero, Sam Bridges, figuring out how to equip the box, Metal Gear Solid style, somewhere in a subterranean level with gun-toted baddies on patrol. Although it was light on details, and according to Mr. Suit and Trainers himself, Jeff Keighley, we're going to get a full reveal in a couple of weeks on what actually is involved in Death Stranding Director's Cut.
I want to jump in here super quick because there's been a lot of PlayStation stuff that's been shown over the entire of E3, and every single time it's always said be shown in a few weeks. So it's obvious to me there's going to be a PlayStation conference soon. I cannot wait to see more of Death Stranding. I literally can't. Even if they just showed just a couple of new locations or even just a soundtrack or anything. Hell, even just a studio, just little interview with Kojima. I'm going to pop off for it because I just love seeing him.
My question to you, Davey, with this director's cut of Death Stranding, do we think this is going to be an add-on? Do you think this is going to be an addition to the game, or is this going to be a whole new version of the game that you have to play through from the start?
No, I imagine the quickest way and the easiest way to do this would be, now, you've platinumed the game, so you've got more knowledge than I do on this, but I could do with some more background on Higgs, right?
Oh, 100%. He's the character that isn't filled in enough, right?
I could see this being a way that you boot up your save, right? You've got like the 4K, 60 frames, ray tracing off or on, whatever it is.
So the PC version. You've got the PC version on your PS5.
Yeah, you got the PC version on your PS5, but then you've got additional content which is hopefully centered around Higgs, because he's the most interesting character, other than Fragile, who isn't shown. So just flesh him out a bit. I really want to know what kind of drew him into that way of thinking to do what he does without spoiling it for anyone else.
The only time we really get to dig into Higgs's background is when we deliver the pizzas right at the end. I think that's when I did it anyway.
That's the mission I've got to do at the moment. That's where I ended my game.
You go. So
I haven't done that yet.
Oh no! Do you want me to spoil this? Not to spoil this, but do you
know
what
don't
happens?
Spoil it for anyone. No.
Okay, I'm not going to go into it then.
Nobody's played it.
You deliver the last pizza basically, and you find out a bit more about Higgs. I won't tell you what happens,
but probably not enough to give you what I want. From the game, right?
It's a can of worms. You want to know all the background.
Yeah, thought so.
But I'd be happy having background on any of the characters. They're also memorable.
They are. That's the thing about Death Stranding. Not to stay too long on this, is that you got like Heartman, who's like exceptional. You got like Deadman, who's amazing. You got all these characters that are just really, 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 really interesting throughout. And Fragile, I love. Like Norman Reedus' character's fine. Sam, he's all right, but it's everyone else around him that really boosts it. It's just like Metal Gear in a way. Like Solid Snake's the least interesting character out of all of them. It's everyone else. It's the villains. It's everything else, right? So you kind of want to dig into the background of Higgs. And that's what I can't wait for.
I'd love to know more about Hartman. I think when I got to Hartman, I genuinely thought he was a bad guy. Just because of the build-up. And that kind of process of him like dipping in and out of kind of like consciousness, and that like 60 seconds that he had, or it was just so intriguing.
Yeah, All I was going to say is, I know it sounds super cynical, but I think it will just be a full price re-release. I don't think you're going to carry your saves over or anything like that. As you said earlier, it didn't sell very well, and I feel like they are relying on people double dipping and buying the game again, and people like me and Spencer actually buying it for the first time. That's all I really wanted to say about it, really.
I don't see why they couldn't do both. So you can buy the game, you can play it through on PS5 and have all those additions. Or if you've already completed it and you've got the save, you can play the extra content. But it comes at a reduced price because it's an older game. It's a 2019 game.
I agree that they should do that, but I believe that they probably will charge full price for it. But that's just how I feel. I know it's cynical, but I could see them wanting to try and recoup their money back and try and sell it again to everyone. You know, like Control, they did the same thing.
Control's a different beast because that's owned by a separate company who didn't make enough money on it originally, and then even still when they went to PlayStation Plus and then Xbox Game Pass, probably still didn't make the money back on it. They said it was profitable at the time. I didn't believe them. And that game was subpar, to be honest. It was. Like, people love that game. I just don't understand it. It's fine. I got the platinum on it. It's all right. But it's not great.
I went to platinum that game. I thought, oh, this will probably be a fun platinum. I'm sure it's a great game. I've heard lots of good things. I started playing Control, the platinum it, and I thought, fuck me, this game's boring as shit. And I gave up. I uninstalled it. I cannot be asked. I'll probably do it one day, but that game's fucking boring, man. I don't know how it even got close to winning Game of the Year. The game came out. The year it came out, even, sorry.
Do we feel like Death Stranding was a financial success? Because
yeah.
I still see Kojima selling watches. You know what I mean? Like, he's still selling merch for this game. This game is like, anything that's got that logo on, people are just buying. I saw a £2,500 Hideo Kojima watch that was like all Death Stranding, and it was sold out straight away.
Yes. I do think it was a success. The difference is it wasn't a big game to make. It was made in 2 years, right? It was a quick game to manufacture, a quick game to make. And you could tell that because it's an empty world, but it makes sense with it. It's not like Breath of the Wild where it doesn't make sense, right? You got like little goblins about in random places, right? Little bits of grass that you can cut in random places, but not all over the place, right? It's not like that. It makes sense because you've got rain, which fucking kills everything all the time. And you've got weather systems which like ruin it. So that's the way it works. It does make sense, like, how it works.
All I was going to say is that I think it was successful, but I feel like a Quentin Tarantino film is kind of like a cult kind of thing. Everyone who loves Kojima bought the game or is interested in the game. And I think it was popular for what it was, but it's not a AAA. It's not like Assassin's Creed or Madden or Call of Duty. I'm not saying that they're good games. I'm just saying that they sell a lot. I feel like it wasn't it was more of a critical success and a success for the fans, but maybe not. It didn't cross over pop culture as much as like Metal Gear Solid did back in the day. I still think it's a great game. From what
it's a totally different beast, right? Like it didn't get the critical reception. I didn't get the public reception that something like, you know, like you mentioned, Metal Gear or like Assassin's Creed or anything like that made, because it's a completely different beast. It's so different. It's so different that if you gave it the time and you gave it the chance for really to stretch itself into what it actually is, it's really surprisingly deep and it's so engaging. But you just won't get that from watching like a Let's Play or, you know, anything like that. You just will not understand it. And that's the problem with it.
Davey, you sort of mentioned that, you know, the world is empty in Death Stranding. But Kojima, you know, he manipulates the story around that. And it becomes part of Death Stranding. There's a reason why there's no one in the game. So I totally get it, right? I don't look at Death Stranding going, where's the NPCs? There are NPCs, and there's some famous, you know, names that have like lent their kind of like person to characters within the game. But it's not filled with people. But that's part of the story.
That's the point, isn't it? That's the point of the game. They make it around that.
Yeah. They make it around the limitations.
we need to do a spoiler cast on this because you and me could talk about this for hours. So I think we should move on from this. So should we move on to? Should we move on to my number one? So my number one is Metroid Dread. So just like Lewis said, I've already said my piece on his. My favorite game. I was completely blown away by it. I thought it was amazing. Can't wait to play it. Let's collate these scores. So the results are in after Spence's amazing editing. So number 3, we've done it in the top 3 because we differ so much on our top 5. Number 3 is Death Stranding Director's Cut. It is in at number 3. Number 2, Elden Ring. And number 1, Metroid Dread. Wow. Well done. So Metroid is coming in at our game of E3, with our conference of E3 being Nintendo. And that is the PlayStation in PS We Trust Best in Show Awards for this year. And I think that's about it for this episode of In PS We Trust. Now, I've been Davey.
I've been Phil.
And I've been Spencer.
And I've been Lewis, the Potato Chief.
Take care, guys.
Peace.
In PS We Trust is hosted by Davey, Phil, and Spencer. You can write into the show via our email, pswetrust@gmail.com. Our Twitter is @InPSWeTrust. To find each of us online, follow our Twitters, @SSJDavey, @PhilipHoy, @SpenPie_. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other. See ya.